All right. What is going on,
Go.
everybody? How we doing?
Doing good,
Well,
doing good. How about you?
yeah. Welcome in. Yeah. Third episode of the D Dunk and Me show, also known as Slightly on Topic.
How we doing
Uh,
today?
yeah, we got big follow up this week. A lot of games that we picked, some correct, some incorrect. How you feeling about that?
Oh, I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. Well, mostly because my Eagles won, but sorry, just
Yeah,
adjusting the
my
camera a bit.
my Eagles won too. My Vikings did not, so don't feel quite as good. But
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
week one.
There we
Get
go.
that camera just right. Get
Just
that
got it.
thing just
Okay.
right now.
Sorry. We're all good.
All right. Perfect. All right. So you want to jump into
Yeah,
recap on our week one picks,
we
or what do
we
you
we
think?
can recap. Let's jump
Yeah.
right in. Recap. How's everyone doing out there? How's everyone feeling about their teams, their picks, their fantasy teams, all that stuff?
Yeah. Throw it in the chat. Let us know.
Let us know.
I mean, we already covered this one, but first game, obviously, of last week, Lions Chiefs. We both picked the Lions. That was a hit. We both picked that one correctly.
Welcome in,
We already kind
Dougie.
of talked about that one.
Yeah, we absolutely did. So
Yeah. Yeah. Good moves on that one.
yeah, I guess the one update would be it's appearing Travis Kelsey's back in practice, and it also Chris Jones ended his holdout. So
Yeah. Is
yeah,
Taylor Swift going to hold him back, though? I
yeah,
mean, who knows?
who knows? Who
She
knows?
might, she might be writing songs about him already. We don't know.
Exactly.
That might put him on the injury chart another week.
He might pull something else, but
Yeah. You got to shake it off or whatever she says.
yeah. But yeah, I would say Chiefs are trending up, but I still think they have a long way to go.
Okay.
When you don't have receivers, but
I do think a lot of movement needs to happen in the receiving core, but I do think having Jones back in the building, if Kelsey does come back, I don't put them, like a walk in the park type situation, but they'll be a
they'll be
completely
much
different
better.
team than they were
Yes.
week one.
Absolutely. Next up, we got the Panthers and Falcons. We both did pick the Falcons to win. They did cover, so
I was wrong on that. I thought they would not cover.
yeah. So I mean, it
Thought
was
be
still
tighter.
it was definitely still a close game. They covered the 3.5, but I think it was only 7 points if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, it just kind of turned at the end of the game there, and they got that score. Dougie. We'll be
next
talking
up,
about that momentarily, Doug.
yeah, we'll be talking about Seahawks. So next up, we got the Bengals and Browns. So
Oh,
this
God.
one was a bit of a. I would say I'm not shocked because Bengals always start slow.
Yeah, right.
and
And I think
Browns-
we even talked about that.
Yeah,
like
and
week one
Browns-
is never a Bengals week.
Absolutely, and Browns
I
do
thought
start.
it would be still, and I'm dumb.
I would say that is significant beatdown.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how close attention you actually paid to that game as it was playing out. Like seeing the score is one thing, and
Yeah.
seeing all the stats. But I literally, as I was watching that game, I jot down. I said, Burrow paid broken, or is it just week one, or is it typical week one Bengals weirdness?
So
where,
the one thing I would say is I think the Browns surprised me on their
Yeah.
defense. Just their defense is good. They've always had players on there,
Right.
but they've never played as a defense.
not
they
like
just
that. Yeah.
well, they just like it wasn't just Myles Garrett after the quarterback. Like, who do they have? Zadarius, I think.
They do. No, I'm sorry. The Browns do. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have another pass rusher that is a little bit more proven than
Yep.
than previous. They obviously always have had a decent secondary, and I think they're playing well together. But
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, it might have been in the order of magnitude of like 4 or 5 first downs or something along those lines. Like they had no first downs. Like
And the thing is, it was both teams were like that. So, because it plays right into my second note here was, and it went for both quarterbacks. I wrote it down for one, but it went for both. Neither of those guys can throw the ball in the rain.
no,
Like if you were watching those passes, they were hitting the ground like 3 and 4 yards before the receiver's feet. It was the weirdest thing to watch two like pro caliber quarterbacks just spike those things into the ground all day.
Right. Welcome in, Alicia. I completely agree. The one thing I would say is last year, if I'm not mistaken, Bengals went 0-2.
Yeah.
They
did. They did.
And let me see if I can get it. Is he loud or just echoey?
Am I echoey?
She's saying you're echoey. You might. I'm going to.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
That's just the speaking with my chest. Exactly. I'm putting it out there twice.
So, yeah, they started 0-2. That being said, it was mainly because I'm not sure what Burrow had, but he had something last year, appendicitis or some kind of thing like that. Anyways, he also obviously missed the entire preseason this year, so it could be just a slow start for Burrow. Now that being said, they to hold the Bengals to 3 points is ridiculous. You got to go back to the drawing board. So,
because they're really one of the better offenses in the league. Like when they're firing, they've got crazy receiving threats, good running back.
Right.
Their O-line is better than it was a couple years ago. So I didn't expect maybe 30 points, but I didn't expect there to be a 0 missing from that either.
No.
Yeah.
100%.
That was the biggest note I took from that is just the game was sloppy all the way around and the quarterbacks both looked awful.
Agreed. No argument there for me. Jaguars and Colts. We both picked the Jaguars. I would say the Colts played some ball.
They looked a lot better than I would have thought. So, I mean, with that game, what you were kind of waiting to see was what is Richardson going to be? Can he accurately pass the ball? Can he make plays? Or is he just going to be the wild card, right? Because of the kind of quarterback he was in college, running all over the place, cannon for an arm, but maybe not the most accurate all the time. And there was a little of that, but he was making plays though. He kept that thing. I didn't get to see it really, really in depth, but I was kind of keeping up on it where I could, and it looked like he was playing some ball.
Right. Next would be the Bucks and Vikings.
God, Bucks and Vikings. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Well, we both got that one wrong to make me feel a little better is that you had faith in them as well, and we were both shown the door on that one.
Yeah.
I think the big thing for me on this one is that I didn't expect the Vikings to blow the doors off, so I actually picked against the spread on this one. I said they wouldn't cover.
Right.
But I did pick them to win. And it's kind of that combination of things where kind of the same as the Bengals, the Vikings never start out, totally buttoned up and looking really, really good week one. Comboed with the fact that Baker's the starting quarterback there. He's on a new team. Right. Every time he hits a new team, he's hyped up. He's college Baker, talking trash and doing his thing. Apparently he's smart now because he allegedly in the second half of the game had all of the Vikings signals figured out. And he told the defense what the Vikings were doing defensively during the second half, which that story has been agreed upon by Devin White. So maybe Baker's crazy intelligent. I don't know, but it didn't look good. Some notes I had on that game, just because obviously that's the game I paid probably the closest attention to throughout the week, is that Minnesota has to push the ball down the field. Every time they threw the ball further than 5 yards, it was a beautiful play every single time.
Right.
Spot the balls where it's supposed to be run after catch situation. The play call actually looked good. It worked well. But 80% of their game plan was apparently to run into a brick wall or throw the ball at the line of scrimmage. And I don't understand why their offensive game plan with this mastermind, Kevin O'Connell, is built on 2 yards and less. But they run way too much of that. So they need to push the ball down the field. I would say the Tampa Bay's D-line looked a lot better than I thought it would have. I know they've got Vita Vea. He's good. I did not expect their run defense to be killer like that, and they stonewall us. I actually wrote here too, Alexander Madison is probably the hardest running back in the league with the worst blocking that I've ever seen. If you actually watch the game, He never went down on first contact. Legs kept going. He broke out of a few whatsoever. I hope Kirk Cousins retires because I think he stinks. I think he's terrible, and I would give him away for a cheese sandwich right now. Because he was allowed the whole game. He was not your typical nerd in the back of the class. Kirk Cousins just sitting there letting his wife dress him. He's out there yelling.
Right.
I don't know what he's going on about, but he looked not good. He throws a pick in the red zone. If he doesn't throw that, we probably win the game. A lot of people want to blame that on Osborne not pulling it in, but he threw the ball behind people. He was late. He wasn't moving. There was just a lot of nasty shit. And I guess I'm going to get into overreactions of my own early. This has nothing to do with other events going on later in the show.
Yeah.
But if I'm Justin Jefferson, I'm not signing a contract extension. And I maybe request a trade.
Wow.
So outside of Kirk Cousins, and I'm a Vikings fan, so I'm going to talk trash and I'm going to let it be a real thing. I do think that if the front office pulls their head out of their ass and makes a couple of moves that we've talked about a few times, that the offense looks entirely different. Right. But if you're going to run with backups at center and guard, it's going to be an ugly year. Yeah. So Jefferson's not going to get the ball like he should. Madison's going to look terrible. The front office needs to stop being cute and leaning on moves that they've made.
Right.
And start putting a team together that can win games. Because if I'm Jefferson looking at that game, I think he got the ball once in the second half.
Right.
I'm not sticking around for that. So I'm praying that Kirk retires or gets traded or beyond that. traded to the afterlife. I don't know, something. Because the Vikings swag from last year's song.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about overreactions, and this is one I was looking at, but I already had one that I think is wrong. Actually, I didn't have one that was wrong, but do you think the Bucs D is good? Do you think?
Probably middle of the pack. I don't think their secondary is good.
Right.
I think their front and their linebacking group is good.
Right.
And I think they've got some good to decent corners.
Right.
Obviously, I really love their one safety. But, I don't know, just as a group, it doesn't seem like it's fit well together. I think they just had pressure on us all day.
Right.
And that ruined everything. If they can play a team with a great offensive line, like if they play the Niners or they play Eagles, somebody like that have a good front that can actually protect their quarterback, that's going to be a much better gauge of kind of where they're at. My voice disappeared.
Really?
Is it gone now? Am I still going?
I can hear you. I was trying to get rid of the echo and was maybe going to put on headphones because
he removed me.
I removed you. Okay.
I don't know. So we're gonna go back in time. This is show 1. We're working out kinks here. That's okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Hopefully I'm back.
Let us know if you can hear him again.
Yeah.
And our apologies for the. You're just picking up in my mic is what's going on, and I don't.
I got you. Okay.
So I was gonna try to put headphones in, but I might have messed up the voice. So.
Hopefully I'm back. Please let me know.
Yeah, if you can let us know if Russ is back on the stream.
I'm gonna wait for a response until I keep going. Well, I guess I need to know where I cut off.
Give us a little bit of heads up.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Lisa's gonna tell me I'm gone and then not update me on if I'm back. Helpful. Let me see here. We'll send a little port text message here to see what the status is. To be determined.
You should be coming through. Like you're showing.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah, because I can see on the mixer where it looks like I'm coming through, but I don't know.
Yeah, so back.
I'm back. Okay.
Okay. I'm assuming the echo's still there.
Create the delayed response.
I'm assuming the echo's still there, but we might just have to roll with it because
Yeah, I don't know because we didn't have that shows 1 or 2, but I'm not 100% what would cause it. We'll figure it out eventually. But yeah, the Bucks defense, I feel like they're middle of the pack. That's where I put them for now because I don't.
Right.
That's not a good test. Playing the Vikings and just blowing up our offensive line all day is probably not the best test of where you're at as far as the rest of the NFL is concerned.
Right. Yeah, and I guess that's where I was wondering if maybe that was part of the issue was that they're not. They have some issues, but maybe it's that the Bucks are good. I personally don't think the Bucks are that good, in my opinion. I think they're okay. I think yes, they got who's their pass rusher back?
Who's pass rusher? The Bucks?
Yeah,
God.
he only had one. He was only in for one game last year, and then he came back.
You're talking about Barrett?
Yeah, Barrett. Yes.
Yeah.
So he was gone for almost all of last year. Yeah, he was there basically. I think only for one game last year, and then ended up injured. So, I mean, obviously he's an addition. Winfield's decent.
Better than decent. Winfield's legit.
He's decent.
He's legit.
But ultimately, I think the Vikings do have some concerns, and we'll get into it a little bit more on that.
Yeah, very, very concerning concerns. I would second that motion 100%.
Okay, moving on to Titans and Saints. So we both had the Saints. We both had them covering. They didn't cover.
I was trashing on the Titans all leading up to this. And I admittedly, again, I didn't watch this game. A lot of these games happen at the same time.
Yeah.
I saw some highlights. And it's weird because at the end of the game, it seems like the Saints were like who we kind of anticipated them being the whole game. Carr's like, hey, run this, do this. When I do this, go here. Like he looked like a legit quarterback. And seemingly the entire game before that, he didn't. So it's weird that he just turned it on to end the game.
But that is
kind of his MO, yeah.
Yeah. He loves the fourth quarter win it, right? So the one thing I would say is I watched a bit of the Titans game. Yeah. They have a bit of a team. Like Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry. I mean Tannehill's Tannehill.
Later in the year, I don't know, man. They're all aging is my thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't sign Derrick Henry to a long-term contract.
Coming directly from an Eagles fan, that might have been the case just not too long ago.
Correct. Yeah. But the truth is, if I've got a drive that I've got to kill out the clock, I'm certainly putting the ball in his hands. Like, do I expect him to last the whole season? Maybe, maybe not. He's getting old. Like, I get all those statements, but he's still Derrick. Like, he's still running over.
But it's not even the fact that he's just getting old. I mean, he's not even really that old. I think he's 30, right? Yeah, but 30 years old is like that magic line for running backs where things start to go downhill. And then he's not even just your average running back. The dude is a mammoth. He's a giant.
Oh, yeah.
And the bang on those knees and ankles and back as you are a physical runner for however many years he's been in the league now, he's just not that kind of runner that I think, he's avoided contact. And he's quite the opposite.
No, and he's been the workload, like the workhorse by an extreme amount.
Right.
So
yeah, he's been the offense, really.
Yes. So I guess my point being he still has, like, if it's for the one run, he's going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean week 16 he's available? Maybe not. So
partially wheeling himself down the field, just
now Spears. I think it's Spears who's his backup. J. Spears or whatever it is.
I thought it was like Hassan Haskins or something like that was there.
No, I think he's gone now. Is he not
gone now? Okay.
Or he's injured or something. Anyways, Spears showed some okay. He didn't get a lot of runs, but he
Yeah.
he did okay there. So
It does seem like the Titans, no matter what, because Henry's been hurt a couple times in years recent, and they've usually got somebody that steps in and they do okay. They're fine. They're never a bad running team. I do think it's interesting when things start to slow down or go wrong, like DeAndre signed there. You've got the young kid that was hurt last year. So, like, what does that passing offense potentially look like eventually? Do they make a change at quarterback sometime? Like,
so I mean
there's so many.
they did all right. So Traylon Burks actually only caught 2 balls for 18 yards, which is kind of what I said. DeAndre Hopkins,
he's Traylon. Nothing to write home about.
DeAndre Hopkins 7 catches for 65 yards. This Tyjae Spears had 3 rushes for 27 yards. So
good average. Yeah.
He spelled out Henry a couple times.
Yeah.
Henry had 15 rushes, 63 yards, and Ryan Tannehill 16 of 34 for 198 and 3 interceptions. So
I'm really surprised they are still rocking with Tannehill because they've got the 2 young guys, and you really at this point, I don't have them making the playoffs. If I'm that coach, I'm making moves to figure out who my quarterback going forward is. Because why wait?
Agreed. That's one thing I don't understand right now. They got a defense right now too. Like,
with Simmons, Boye, I think is the safety's name.
Yeah,
they might have a corner or two there that are legit.
Byard's there. Kevin Byard.
Byard. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they got Sivens. They got Sean Murphy Bunting, who's a decent corner. Who else do they got?
I think their linebackers are okay too. I couldn't call them out by name, but I feel like they're usually playing pretty well. I mean, you've got a former guy at that position coaching the team. You would think they would be okay.
Yeah.
But it was a weird game. It was a weird game. We got it right, but the spread was wrong.
Yeah. 49ers Steelers. What do you got there?
Yeah. So I obviously we both picked the Niners to win this one. I actually also had the Niners covering the spread, even though I do have the Steelers being a legitimate team throughout the year. I think they're going to be a good playoff team. That was a weird one where like I really did think San Fran would come in and look good, but I thought it was going to be more of a defensive matchup, just, button heads, kind of a low scoring game. Ayuk came out and looked like a fucking monster. Like he looks primetime ready. That guy's legit. I do question whether or not they use him the same all year because you've got Debo and CMC. So how does that offense kind of transform throughout the year? Purdy played really well. I don't know, man. There were moments that I think the Steelers defense looked good, but there was just too much going on for San Fran the whole game. And Pickett looked terrible, I think. I think Pickett looked terrible.
Yeah.
I literally wrote down, does the front office hate Najee Harris? Because they didn't use him. It was the weirdest thing where they were running Warren, I think is his name, 2/3 of the time. It was crazy to me the way that they ran that offense.
So there's 2 things that jumped out to me with the Steelers, which was the Steelers defense is TJ Watt and the rest.
100%. Which is funny because I wrote down also that TJ Watt's hands are apparently weaker than Purdy's ass. Because Purdy brought that fumble in with his ass. And TJ
that's right. Yeah. I remember seeing that.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I mean,
number two, which we had talked about, that both of us were questioning when the 49ers Steelers were going to play each other, is that was the first time I've seen the Steelers looked one of the least unprepared teams to play a football game in the league. Like, right. I wasn't even sure if they were they're like, is this a preseason game or a regular season game? and Mike Tomlin never, if that's one thing he knows how to do,
he's never unprepped. Yes. That's the crazy thing. And I'm watching that game and I'm trying to remind myself per usual, hey, it's week one. I'm watching the Vikings get their dick kicked in. Hey, it's week one. So I keep having to remind myself of that all day as I'm watching these games play out. But there was so much with them that looked bad.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah. Again, I jot down the question, is Pickett a bust?
Right.
And he looked really good in preseason, and he looked okay last year. But I don't think anybody really had him being a game changer coming in as a rookie. And you see him play, granted, against the Niners defense, which is insane. But he was missing easy passes, like open little, comeback routes and curls and things like that are just kind of a pitch and catch. And he's throwing them wide right and left and short. And he looked awful. He looked like the true BK guy that had the tiny hands. If you actually look at him, he looks like the guy from the BK commercials back in the day who had tiny hands. Shout out BK.
I actually wondered if Pickens might be the first rookie to do a holdout after that. That was horrendous. Like, how as a receiver, like, I wouldn't say Pickens was like playing extremely well, but there was open times where it's like, how do you not hit it?
There were a lot of open receivers that were not. You might as well not suit up. Go stand on the sidelines. He's got a better shot of hitting you in street clothes over there than if you're wearing a uniform on the field.
Agreed.
That was and the Najee thing too. I don't know if they're trying to force him out. I don't know if they just want him to not get a lot of money when he resigns.
Right.
That was the weird one. Is Warren is not better than Najee Harris.
Right.
And I don't get why they were running him that way.
I don't know either at all.
Yeah. Strange one. I think San Fran is going to be really good. I do think Pittsburgh will be okay in the long run, but that was an ugly game for them.
Very ugly. Commanders and Cardinals.
Oh,
so we both had this. I thought for sure they were going to cover. I don't know why you said no, but you did. You called that one, and
I can remind you why I said no. And it's that anytime a team has a new head coach, there is a sense of urgency where they've got to come and improve themselves, and the players feel like they need to win for that new coach. And it's actually something McAfee talked about last year when old buddy stepped in as a temporary head coach for the Colts.
Yeah.
And they played really well that first game, and then they were just trash every other game. Right. So this is not me saying that the Cardinals will be good.
Right.
But I thought they would be better than they will be the rest of the season in week one. And there was enough to kind of be shaky and nitpicky about the Commanders as well, with new quarterback, a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah.
They don't have any really outside of Terry McLaurin, who's really set in place on that offense. Nobody. So I think they have a lot of really good pieces, but it's going to take time to.
Yeah, I mean, you got Jahan Dotson, but I don't know that he's proven.
He can
really
be good,
anything.
But we don't know if he will.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think the Commanders will be good. I don't know. Like, the one thing I would say is the Cardinals really are probably going to get the first overall pick.
They should. And, I don't think they play as well as they played this week. Maybe the rest of the season.
Well, I would argue they actually didn't even, like, they played well enough to stop some things, but.
Sure. I don't think the Commanders are a bad team in the NFL, though. Like, I actually have them slated to make the playoffs, and I know that's an ugly pick based on what happened this last week, but I think they're, if they don't make the playoffs, I think they're fringe, and I don't think the Cardinals are anywhere near that. And they made it a game.
Yeah. So, and then talking on that one, the one thing I would hammer home on that is it is, like you said, it's week one.
Yeah.
It is still the NFL. There is still good players. Like, the bottom of the bottom players is still an NFL player. So, and a starter. Like, they have starters. They, they're not the top starters, but they got starters. So,
well, and the Cardinals, to be fair, like, their roster's not bare. They've got some really top end guys at a few positions. They just don't have top end guys at a lot of positions.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, and you're not going to go rip apart Budda Baker.
No.
Right? So, I mean, just like that alone slows down some of it, a rookie quarterback.
They've got some pieces, but they're clearly in rebuild mode. Again, I think week one, it was just week one team of guys trying to prove themselves, coach trying to prove himself, and it was just kind of the perfect formula to have a good week one. Right. But they still lost, and it's going to be a bad year.
Texans, Ravens. So I had
Oh,
Ravens. You had Ravens. I had them covering. You did not. That was a pretty big spread, but I
yeah.
mean, it
And
wasn't. It wasn't like the Ravens just absolutely
they
running away
didn't
on offense. It was just a
know.
really good defense,
Yeah.
and
If you look at the stats, they're awful. Offensively, like
yeah,
Lamar looked terrible.
yeah,
Mark Andrews wasn't there. The
right,
running back blew his leg out.
yeah,
There's not like offensively, there's really nothing to point to where you walk away from that game, even though they cleared a 10-point spread.
absolutely.
Offensively, you shouldn't walk out of that game real confident. But the defense looked the way that you would expect that defense to look.
Now, the one thing, and I think there's a bit of a theme here, and I do believe it, and we're going to touch on it even when we get to my Eagles there, is inherently I do believe defenses have an easier time in week one. So,
Yeah, I mean, offenses are traditionally going to be more simplistic to start the year, and then they get more intricate. There's a lot of trick
exactly.
plays and kind of
Yeah.
crazy things that happen as the year goes on. So
I'm
you
not
kind
I'm
of
not
just
saying that to say the Ravens are going to be the perfect offense. But ultimately I would say that inherently you have the Ravens are going to show up. The Texans
yeah.
do have some pieces on their defense, so it's automatically going to just
And they're a
yeah.
growing team.
Yeah.
Everything that they've got that's promising is like year 1 and 2. There's really not
Exactly.
anybody on that roster that you're looking at
Right.
that's like 5 years in the league and you think they're just great. Kyle, I do agree. Fire Cousins and all of that. Correct. 100%. Yeah, Houston, I think if their quarterback pans out, like if he ends up being a guy, they'll be a team in like 2 or 3 years because they've got a lot of
So
nice little pieces.
what's your thoughts on CJ
Stroud?
Stroud?
It's hard to say, man. I don't like him. I don't like him as a quarterback. I don't, and this is gonna sound terrible, but I don't think he's intelligent enough to be a good NFL caliber quarterback.
Right.
I think he's toolsy. He's big. He's athletic enough. He's got a big arm. So physically, he can do it all. But I just like watching him at Ohio State kind of waver a couple of times, and then he became a really good.
Wow.
He's a few pieces away from a playoff team. Absolutely not.
I don't know that I'd say that.
Yeah, that's a
I
wild take.
that's an overreaction. That's an over.
Yeah, put that put a
Put
pin
that
in
in
that one.
overreaction Wednesday.
Put a pin in that one for week 5 when they're like 4-1, or I'm sorry, 1-4 maybe. But yeah, Stroud's got all the tools to do it. It's going to come down to like whether or not he learns the game, learns the offense, learns how to pick defenses apart at an NFL level. Because college to NFL, if one thing changes, is that you don't have 5 yards of separation and you don't have the space in the windows and all the shit that you see in college. It looks wildly different once you hit the league.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have drafted him. I wouldn't have drafted him, and I'll stand by that until he goes half the
So
season.
I mean, the one thing I'll give him is against that defense. 28 of 44, 242 yards, 0 TDs, 0 interceptions, and 20 yards rushing.
He didn't make the big mistake. I mean, he
He
didn't.
didn't. Yeah, he didn't make the mistake. No, the other thing is, at some point, it's worth making a mistake when you're down. So,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
don't just not make the mistake
That's-
when.
That's going to come down to the same thing that you see in a lot of quarterbacks is like, well, he won't lose you the game, but he won't win you the game. And if you're Houston, like somebody's got to go win these games.
Exactly.
So in that scenario, it's almost better to take a shot and see what you can get away with and learn from those mistakes
Exactly.
versus just try to avoid them entirely.
Yeah.
But they also don't have a lot of tools. I don't blame him for not taking 50 deep shots and trying to win the game either. It's tough.
We are five conversations away from that, and some of our reactions as well. So we'll talk about that.
We're
shortly.
rolling up on that one, Nate.
Yeah,
We're
we
rolling up on
are. We
that
are
one.
getting there. We are getting there. Packers and Bears. So I picked Bears. You picked Packers. Obviously, it was a 1-point game, so there was. It was pretty much pick 'em at that point. So.
Right. Right.
Spread didn't really matter at that point. You can't win for less than 1 point unless it's a tie. So
Unless they somehow tied and we both would have been wrong.
anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I mean this came down to kind of what I thought it would come down to. You've got an inaccurate athletic quarterback on the Bears side who everyone thinks the world of. And he kind of played the way you would expect him to play. He ran the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
He threw the ball poorly. I did think that the new receiver coming in from Carolina would have made a bit of a difference. He didn't get anything going.
No.
And I think Green Bay has a good defense, not a great defense. They're good. But Green Bay ran away with this one a lot more than I thought they would. I mean, Love statistically is one of the best quarterbacks in the league for week 1. If you look at the ranking. Statistically. That's why I said statistically, not actually, but statistically. So the Packers looked more impressive than I thought they would. But again, divisional game, it's week 1. Both teams are young. The coaching on the Bears side is brand spanking new. I think there's just a lot to work through there. I don't really take anything away from this game, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because
I guess the one thing I would say is, like, I actually watched some of this. Yeah. Aaron Jones, I think, had, and I don't know the exact yak, but he had 86 yards receiving.
But that's who Aaron Jones has always been. They've just never used him.
Right, but I guess my point with that is he had 86 yards receiving and probably 84 yards of yak.
Right.
So if you take that...
But now he's dinged up going into week 2.
Right, but I guess my point is they had 245 yards. One of those was a TD, so you take away that. If it's Aaron Jones, that was a running play that ended up leaving in a forward motion, right? So number 2 is Luke Musgrave, 3 catches for 50 yards, which I actually thought he was going to show up for him. One of those, I think, was 38 yards. So, and it was wide open. Like he tripped on his own feet.
The statistics coming from like 2.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Jordan Love looked decent. But
sure.
If you, I could go by...
Tripping in first start, though, decent is a good thing.
Correct. No, and don't get me wrong. Hit where he should have hit for his first game.
Right.
But to think that, he's 245 yards, 3 TDs, 15 to 27.
It's a little bit
he's
of
the savior.
On the stats. Yeah.
No. I suggest you probably could have put any of the rookie QBs almost on that, and you might have got close. So,
okay. I mean, I don't know that you could have put Pickett in there and it would have looked that good, but first game.
I would say again, and I've had these conversations with others. They were playing the team who had the first overall pick last year.
Yeah, they were playing
they traded it away, but they had the first overall pick because they were
playing the bad news Bears. We get it; they're terrible.
Now, and I thought the Packers were gonna play worse than they were this week, and it was a divisional game, and so forth. So that's the only reason I didn't pick them. But
I mean, obviously, I picked them on the spread, but that was just picking them to win.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to blow the Bears out. That's not what I walked in this game thinking that was going to happen. But we'll see. I mean, if Aaron Jones is dinged up,
I would say pleasantly surprised, but
I'm sure most of Green Bay is.
Yeah, I would caution to say it's week 1.
Yeah,
careful.
Right, reel it in. Green Bay easy. You already had to pay for your drinks.
Yeah.
Don't go making this overhyped mistake twice.
100%. Raiders and Broncos. So
I watched none of this game, just as a heads up. But yeah.
I watched 2 or 3 plays. Very little highlights. What I can say, it was 17-16. Yeah. What I kind of expected, to be honest, I didn't expect it to be. I thought it was going to come down to a last field goal or touchdown.
Right. And I think my quote on this game leading up to it was that nobody wins, but the Raiders score more points.
Right.
And I don't think it was wildly different than that. It just kind of seemed like a drawn out, who's going to score last type of game. But because I watched the end of day kind of give us the overview, and there's nothing there that I was like impressed. I looked at the stats. Nobody seemed to be a standout type of player on either side. Yeah. It was just kind of one of those games.
Eagles Patriots.
Yeah, this is yours.
So I'll say this, like,
I love the way that you react. Like I reacted to, like we got our fucking asses kicked, even though the stats don't really show that.
so
I should feel terrible, and I feel like you feel like I feel.
here's the question I have for you. Did you watch the game?
Bits
Probably
and
not.
pieces, because
Okay.
I was watching other games at the
Okay.
time. I'm not.
No.
I'm not paying
And-
$7 million for NFL Sunday ticket here
Yeah,
to
no,
watch the Eagles.
fair enough. So the one thing I would say is, we got a fumble by Jordan Davis of Ezekiel Elliott that was on the 25-yard line of the Patriots. So we were.
Okay.
That's the only touchdown the offense scored. That's the only touchdown the offense.
That doesn't surprise me though. And I
No,
don't think it should
just
surprise you.
hear me out on this. The first touchdown we scored was a Slay pick 6. So there's 14 points. And the other points were 4 field goals that were all over 40 yards by Jake Elliott, 2 of which were 50 plus. So just to put it in perspective of how close we were to the end zone,
Positivity.
we got in the red zone once.
When you almost started there.
Yes, when we started on the 25. So now that being said, I have to say, I think, like, I've watched a fair bit of Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Every bit of, like, criticism I had for him previously, this guy is a genius.
He's always got the defense going.
I have not seen cover 4, send 7 since probably the 90s. He had four DBs at the sticks on a third down and sent 7, and they were switching their, like, they were in a cover 4 type kind of, but they were switching, like they were running with them, then passing off. One guy went with it, like it was wild. Like some of the shit that he pulled, I was like, this guy is.
I think with that team, what it comes down to is Belichick coaches heavy on the defensive side, and you're not gonna fuck up in front of Bill Belichick. So I think that's why his defense is always dialed in, is because he is highly intelligent. He knows the game back to like the 20s,
Right.
And he'll use anything he's got. The offense with them is going to be the question all year.
Oh yeah.
All of what they don't have. And
Yeah, and I'll give this. Bill O'Brien started to get Mac Jones settled down in a groove. They were making some nice passes. Hunter Henry looked like he was Travis Kelce out there. Like it was, I don't know where that came from, but
number 1 tight end in football right now, Hunter Henry.
Yeah. So I mean, but looked phenomenal. Like honestly, he was running like the chair routes and like an out and up, and like it was wild. His corner that he ran and beat, I forget who, I think it was Maddox or someone. Like he just went away. Like it was like, I'm like, man, like, so all
and
that
he
to say,
he may be back to being the Hunter Henry from when they were in San Diego, I think at the time. Like,
he played phenomenal. Juju, honestly, I think he might have just, after missing one of the balls, he might have just walked off into the locker room. So I don't even know if he's still on the team or not. But anyways, it was a beatdown. It started torrential downpour. It was wild. Anyways, I mean, they scored 5 points. They beat us by 5. That's the type of game I thought it was going to be, to be honest, and it fed into Bill Belichick, right? Like we talked about, the defenses inherently have a bit of an advantage because you have to play simple. You haven't gotten the groove. Sirianni said, I will no longer not play, or he didn't say that. He said, I will reconsider playing my starters during the preseason. After that one.
Get them ready.
Yeah. So anyways, I mean, I think the offense is going to be fine. We played like absolute garbage. I think we will do better, which we'll get into the next game, but I think we will play a lot better. Belichick, anyone who has to face Belichick on week 1, I'm sorry, but
it's going to be a tough week.
That was a rough week. So, But overall, I do think the offense for Patriots could be okay. They actually were looking a lot better than I expected. And the only thing I would say is they choked big time because I think we gave them 3 chances at winning the game inside our 50, and they couldn't do it.
That's the Patriots offense right now. You're going to get a piece here and there, and you might not see offense the rest of the game.
So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Dolphins-Chargers. What a shootout.
What a game. What a game. What a game. Yeah, I mean, we both picked this one right. We both picked the Dolphins to cover the 3-point spread. Again, I think this is probably one of the best games of the week. 2 high-powered teams that should both be in the playoffs. But, dude, the Dolphins offense, I don't know how you're going to stop that all year long unless you're Bill Belichick. Here's the thing, and I want to open this before I start talking a crazy bit about the game. I still think they're missing a running back. And it sounds weird to say that amazing offense needs another piece, but I don't like that. That's one thing I didn't see is I didn't see any crazy, promising stuff from the running back thing. So if somebody figures out how to cover those receivers or even cover just Tyreek.
So here's my bigger concern with them would be when you're going up against a Chiefs or a even Chargers or whatever, you get up 14. You got to run.
But I don't think they can.
Right, that's my point. That's the bigger issue. It's not just I don't know that you can cover them, but you don't want to be throwing 30-yard bombs down the field when you're up.
Well, that's how you get into the whole Charger situation, right? Where they're up 20 points and they're not doing what they should offensively, and now the other team's back in the game and it becomes a problem. What if you're the GM in Miami? What are you doing? What are you thinking right now? Because I know immediately where I'm going.
So, 2 things. First thing is I think they like their running backs even though they shouldn't.
Oh, God. Yeah. Maybe it's their O-line then, because I don't know. I mean,
I'm not saying they should. I'm saying I mean they've been always in the hunt, so they've been in the Dalvin Cook, they've been in the whatever.
They seemed pretty soft on him though, and I don't blame him because he's Dalvin Cook, and we can talk about that here in a little bit as well.
Yeah, I don't think they'd go get Tyler Batty, but
you're probably not going after Batty. If I'm Miami, I am quickly attaining Jonathan Taylor.
So here's one that I would say is they got a lot of fast backs, like speed backs. Yeah. I almost might go get Kareem Hunt.
If you want something cheap and easy to go acquire, Kareem Hunt's a good play. I think that he doesn't really fit the style of offense they're trying to do.
Right, but I guess what it would fit is hey, we're up. Let's run out some clock.
And the one thing about Kareem Hunt is that he's going to be cheap. You don't have to give anything up for him because you do have contract time coming up for Tua and coming up for Waddle. So having to re-sign Jonathan Taylor could prove to be an issue. I think there are other pieces that you can move around, restructure certain contracts to make that all fit.
The other one is it Jeff Wilson that's injured right now? Or is he?
That sounds right because I know they've got Mostert and then their young kid is A-Chain or A-Kane or whatever his name is. Jeff Wilson sounds correct.
Or is he 49ers?
I think he's played for both. Because they let Gaskin walk.
Yeah, no, they did a trade with Miami and he's the Dolphins. Okay. He's injured. So he's injured right now. He's on IR, so he's back in 4 weeks. So that could be.
He should be on the street. I've never seen anything out of Jeff Wilson that makes me think he's good. I'll take Mostert over Jeff Wilson all day. Because I've at least seen Mostert have breakout parts of season before he gets hurt. Which getting hurt's not good, but that's why I'm falling back on. I actually agree with your Kareem Hunt take, but I would be looking at the Jonathan Taylor situation too.
Yeah, I would. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to play. He's going back to Indy. He's playing week 5.
He's at this point he's got to. But if you're Indy and you get a call pre him coming back saying, "Hey, we'll give you," and I don't know what it would take to get him. I mean, I don't think they get the first that they're angling for. But if someone's willing to give up like a second,
they asked for Waddle.
They asked for Waddle, but that's never going to happen. You know that's never going to happen. Let's be realistic here. Come on, Colts, work with me here. You don't want him. We'll take him. I guess we'll take him off your hands. Wouldn't you like a pick rather than some angry dickhead sitting on the bench shitting on your culture? Let us give you a second-round pick. If I'm Miami, I make that move all day because even if you only have him for a short term, that's what I mean. How many second-round picks actually hit? And if this is your year, I'll give up a second for that.
I'd give up a second. I don't think they're taking a second.
I think after a while they might. But yeah, I mean, I think Miami is.
Miami's the real deal.
They're obviously division winners. You know, somebody picked that from the get-go.
Yeah, and to be honest, I can't really argue at this point because
your div winners, you know, they're in a different position now.
Yes.
Which some notes on this game, I'll get back to kind of my point is that I wrote down Miami should make a move for Taylor. I didn't even think about Hunt at the time, but Hunt does make a lot of sense too.
Yeah.
But a lot of my notes were about the Chargers. First is that their third down play calling is fucking terrible. It might be the worst in the league. They run way too many cutesy plays where they're doing weird little shovel passes or stupid little short passes and get down the field. Like you have controversial statement, I guess, but a good receiving core. You've got a good running back. You need to trust Herbert and Eckler to make the plays.
Yeah, anyways. The one thing I would say, I didn't have the Chargers making the playoffs, and that's because honestly, they're in every game, but they can't figure out how to win.
The closing it is a problem, but
they can't win.
That's more of an issue with the coach than anything.
I don't disagree. They can't win, and if you can't win, you can't get in the playoffs. Like
this is going to be the year. Like if they do not press forward from where they've been the last couple of years, I think that coach is gone.
You don't have a choice.
You've literally got. I'm not going to say no holes because their defense has holes, but with the offense that you have, you should be in every game. Would you pay Eckler, or is that maybe somebody Miami should be going after as well as Eckler?
I'd say you could go after Eckler.
Yeah. Eckler's legit, man. I mean,
Eckler is legit. I actually like Eckler a lot.
He's hurt now, dealing with an ankle injury, but he's always just been that guy, and I feel like nobody gives him the props that he's earned.
Yeah, I mean, like you have your Will and Sam backers as Bosa and Mac. Like, what is wrong with you? Also,
I do think though that Mac is just kind of done. And not like that he can't do it. I just think
he's not the player he was, and they're paying him too much money. Agreed. But the other one is
contract. Yeah.
Honestly, like they got to figure out what they're going to do with J.C. Jackson too. The penalty or whatever he took on that. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you're athletic enough, you could have picked it. Like, why do you push him like that? Like, just go get the ball.
Yeah, and honestly, this probably goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that when he's in New England, he's not – you don't fuck up with Bill Belichick or you ride the bench. This coaching staff for the Chargers, I think low-key might be ruining players.
Yeah.
Because Jackson's a player.
Agreed. Well, they had to bench him last year because he was playing so bad.
Yeah. Is it just too lax there? Like, is the coaching staff just letting people get away with shit? Because Bosa's not doing what he's doing in years past. Mac has fallen way off. J.C. Jackson fell off in the first year he was there. Like, what is the coaching staff doing with that defensive unit?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that honestly, with what I saw, like, and don't get me wrong, the Dolphins won that game.
Yeah.
The Dolphins won that game. It's
100%.
just, I know they're going to go play, the Broncos or the Raiders and they're going to lose.
Yeah. It'll happen eventually. Like 100%, it will.
And it's like you just were 2 points short of the Dolphins, and you're gonna go lose.
But that's the weird thing about them is that like every game that they should blow somebody out, they don't, and then every game they probably shouldn't be in, they're right there.
Yeah.
They're the weirdest team.
Well, I think they play to whatever teams across the field from them every time, and that's coaching 100%.
And I think the coaching is just awful. The situational coaching more than anything is awful. And I had a lot more notes on this game. Tua looked great. He looked confident. He looked like he was on point. He took hits. He made a bad throw here and there, but nothing really shook him all game. And I thought that was a key thing coming off of last season, having your head crushed 3 times and you did some weird fall down, get up, zombie move, and now you're back looking like a legit quarterback again. That was huge. This is going to be a total throwaway statement because nobody's going to know who this guy is. Smythe, their tight end, is he a secret weapon? Like, is that dude legit? Because he looked good all game. I know everybody was focused on Hill and Waddle and everything that's going on. And he didn't, like, blow the stat door open. But, like, every time that it wasn't a bomb or every time that it was, like, a 3rd down, let's convert, or a 2nd and 8, and we want to get to 3rd and 1 or 2, Smythe was the guy. They've got, like, a whole core of people that nobody knows about that all seem to be good. So great job, Miami GM, getting weird players nobody knows about.
He was the 3rd in receiving.
Yeah, he was just somebody I've never even heard of, and he looked good all day.
Braxton Berrios was 4th with 42.
Yep.
River Croft was 40.
Okay.
So those 3 had 3 receptions, 44, 42,
He's just somebody
that
randomly, I was watching that game, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy, and where did he come from? And he was balling.
Yeah, I didn't notice him, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was flipping so much that it was like
random intake. That was a game I watched a lot of. So,
Rams Seahawks.
Next game, Rams Seahawks. This was an ugly one.
This was. I think the Rams are back. I'm not saying Super Bowl. I'm not saying Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm saying they have now made that where it's actually 3 teams that are competitive in that division, which is, we thought it was a 2-horse race. I think both of us were on that same
I thought
boat.
the Rams were going to be the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because of Stafford's health last year, and they traded away all these players and moved a bunch of pieces, and it just seemed like they were willing to give it up and try to rebuild. And, dude, Stafford came in and looked like Detroit Stafford. He looked like that guy again.
Yeah. No, he looked really good. I think he made all of his weapons look good.
Well, because he's got 2 or 3 receivers. Like Tutu Atwell, I knew was a freak athlete.
Yeah.
But he's never really done anything. And he was one of their top 2 receivers. Some other kid I've never heard of is one of the top receivers in the league this week because of the way that their passing game was looking.
Puku, whatever.
Yeah, Puka, Waka Maka, whatever his name is. Yeah. Came out of nowhere. Looked
Puku
legitimate.
Naku or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to actually pronounce it. But, yeah, the kid looked good. Tutu looked really good. Stafford looked really good. I don't know that they're a legit team as far as, like, they're going to compete with everybody every week and it's going to be crazy. But they're going to be a lot better than I thought they would.
They have 2 decent running backs. Kieran Williams. Yeah, they'll do all right. They'll do all right.
I don't know if I agree with that statement because I think their running backs are not good. But
they're decent.
You've got a head coach that's going to put people in the right spots offensively. Seattle didn't look good. This was a game where Seattle, I thought, would come in and just blow the doors off because of the weapons they've got, because of the coaching they have, because of the defense they have. And I don't know if it's a week 1 anomaly. I don't know if it's we came in way too overconfident or we overlooked the Rams like I did. But they didn't look like the Seahawks. I mean, they've got good running backs that didn't blow it up. They've got 3 receivers that should be good that didn't really take over. DK looked good early.
Yeah, he looked good early. The one thing interesting part was apparently it got a little heated between DK and Pete about him getting in retaliations again.
Really?
So, yeah.
I mean,
Pete basically said, like, either you grow up or you're like you're not gonna be a Seahawk. Like, you're gotta.
So I didn't see what he was doing retaliation wise. What happened with him?
Apparently, and I heard this on another podcast or whatever that I was listening to about the Eagles, and they were talking about apparently they were chirping at him on the sideline, like it was the sideline.
The Rams
chirping. Rams sideline was chirping at him, and he went at him and like started like pushing and throwing punches.
Fuck them. Who cares? I mean, I would so much rather my player be that fired up. Like Adam Thielen back in the day used to shit talk the opposing team's coaches on the sidelines.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You never heard. I mean, he got fucking Belichick's face.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would much rather and I would much rather it happen. And this, I'm going to put this on Pete. I'm not saying you don't coach it up and you don't try to get it to not happen.
Yeah.
But you acknowledge, hey man, I get it. It's game time. Right. You don't want to hear this shit. Nobody does. But you can't go throw fucking punches. You can't go do this.
And I think that was his point. I think that was his point.
Well, I don't know how he said it, but if it came to a point where it's you don't do this shit or you're not a Seahawk. No.
Well, I don't know if it was that extreme, but it was to the point. Well, and he took like it was a bad time, and. Again, like I don't know whether it cost the game.
I think that's the coachable moment. I didn't watch it. I can't speak to like what actually happened or how it happened. But if Pete went at him aggressive and like you don't do this shit or you're off the team kind of statement.
So he said to the news conference, "We'll wait and see how this goes." We had a great conversation, very serious, man to man. Down to it, he wants to be great and he wants to do everything he can to be great. Whatever, we'll figure it out. But it came to the point of him saying, "We can't allow it to happen," and he needs to learn how to control himself, and he needs to elevate himself above stupid penalties at costly times. So
yeah, I mean, I don't hate that statement. I don't love it either. I think it's okay. Because I mean, if you're Seattle and you don't have DK, that's a massive hit.
Oh yeah,
that's a massive, massive hit. Because because they brought in Smith and Jigba, and he's not replacing DK; he's replacing Lockett long term.
Yeah, and he exactly what you said. He goes on to say, "There's nothing new. DK's been an emotional, feisty, fiery player since the day he got here. That is who he is, but he also has to manage that so they don't take advantage of it." Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I don't know. When you have an emotional, high octane player like that in the moment, I'm not saying anything along the lines of get it together or you're off the fucking team.
Wow. I probably went a little extreme with that. I don't know if he said exactly those words, but
I don't know. Again, I didn't see
He basically said you got to learn how to control this. Like, this is not acceptable.
Sure.
Which, I mean, what does not acceptable mean? It's like, well, if you keep doing something that's not acceptable, I would imagine that's something's going to come. So.
I don't know, man. And I don't know what they were trash talking him about because early in the game, he was busting them up. So maybe you need to use him more. Because DK, I think, is one of the better receivers in the league. I mean, physically, he can't be matched up with. Physically, there's really not a DB that's on that level. So
no, he absolutely. I mean, the truth that here's the bottom line though. When people know you react. Right. What do you think they do? And they do it.
You poke that bear.
And you do it with players that you don't care if they get ejected either, right? Like you go send out your 5th string cornerback to just go, piss on his cornflakes. So, anyways.
Yeah. I think it was a sloppy game just in general. Their running backs are too good. Their receiving threats are too good. That team is too good to get beat that badly by the Rams. But it's a divisional game. It's week 1. I think if this happens in their next matchup, it says a lot more than it does in week 1.
Agreed. Keeping it moving. Cowboys and Giants.
Oh God, what a game!
One
this
of
was.
the worst beatings I've
Yeah.
seen in recent history.
So I do feel like everybody kind of overreacted to this game immediately because the Giants did get just the shit beat out of them for the whole game. The Giants looked terrible. Like I don't know that there was a team that was less prepared, sloppier, like just they looked like they hadn't had a practice in the entire offseason with fumbles, terrible decisions, blown blocks, defensive players not being anywhere they should have been. There's nothing positive the Giants can take out of that game. But I do think the positive in that is that you literally just throw it away.
Yeah.
Like you
100%.
don't look back at that game and go, gosh, what can we learn from? Nothing. That game is done and over with and fucking forget about it.
Agreed.
Because, yeah, Danny, I don't know if I had been drinking that evening, but I wrote Danny Dimes commits too many Danny crimes. Because he was fucking terrible. Like and you just paid him a boatload of money. And I said it when they signed him, not worth it. That's got to be one of the worst offseason signings from this last season.
Oh yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Bad. I mean
that was horrendous. The one thing I noticed, and I'm trying to get some of the stats here. They Dallas is all hyped, everything like that. I think they're a good team, but Dak had 143 passing. Now I understand he didn't have to pass, but they actually didn't even rush that much. So don't say they had 122 yards rushing for the team.
Their defense scored and put people in position all day.
Correct.
Is what that came down to.
Yes. Their biggest receiver was CeeDee Lamb at 77, then Brandon Brooks at 22. It was not
It was bad.
Not the best game across the board. Yeah, Danny Dimes looked horrendous.
He was brutal. I would agree with you about the Cowboys. I mean, the flip side of the Giants taking nothing away from this is that really the Cowboys should take nothing away from this.
Right.
Because there wasn't a game to win. There was no game at all. They just handed you a dub, and you could have walked away with it. So I think the one common thing with the Cowboys is that they have a game or two like this every year where they just blow the doors off, and then they come back down to earth. And if you've been the coach there now for I think 3 years, don't even go do a fucking film session. Don't go in and do this. Well, this was great and that was great. No. Go into week 2 like it's week 1. Because the moment you think this is the kind of team you are, you're fucked. And you're going to get a loss you shouldn't pick up. And that's going to be what they do, is they're way too high. They'll come back down. They'll get real low. And then they'll probably balance right back out. One other thing I did pick up on this game, because it was like the game of the night and everybody had to watch that one, is that I really don't like the Giants coach as much as I thought I did. So when he came in last year, I was really kind of hyped up on it for what he did for Josh Allen and the Bills offense. And I thought if he could be a good culture guy, which he seemed to be, that team would make a jump. And they did last year. They looked a lot better last year than the year prior. And I get that it was a terrible game and that you're not going to be happy. I'm completely acknowledging that. But he looked like somebody just pissed in his cornflakes the whole game. He was snarling and looking like shit. And he didn't seem real composed. Like he wasn't that guy when you're down as a player that you want to go to. Everybody, I guarantee you, was avoiding him the whole time. And when the game's a throwaway like that, you've got to go nitpick the couple positive things that happen and go get those guys prepped for next week. Like in quarter 2, you know the game's over. Go start prepping for next week. And he didn't do any of that. He just looked like a shitty little fucking 3-year-old the whole game.
We'll get into that a little bit later. We'll talk a little bit more about the Cowboys on a go-forward basis here.
I got a big statement for you on the Cowboys here coming up. And we'll talk about it a little more in depth.
Bills Jets. So this one's a love it and hate it conversation for me. So
great game.
I picked the Jets. I picked the Jets. I said yes, they're going to cover it.
You did.
You said the Bills. You said yes.
And I lost, and I feel better about this game than you do.
So, as everyone's aware, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles on down 4 of the opening
From
drive.
ayahuasca to sayonara.
Four plays in. And then we proceeded to laugh, joke, make fun of how the Jets now are not going to do anything. And the Jets decided that they would go win it.
They would go win the game. Now, it's one game. It's the emotional roller coaster of let's go win this for Aaron. Because my first note, the Jets are dead. The Jets are dead. Verbatim. First thing I wrote down.
The Jets defense, as I stated, is a top 5 defense.
Defensively, they are very good. I do think, and this goes back because I had them last in the division before Rodgers was even injured. I do think that as time goes on and losses pile up, you're less excited to play. Okay. And I don't think that defense is going to carry them to 8 wins. I just don't see it happening. I mean, the defense is very good. On paper, the group they have and the way that they play. But when you're, and watching that game, the Bills might be dead too. The Bills might be just as dead because they're missing nobody. They've got this MVP caliber quarterback, whatever you want to call him. And he might just be, I think Josh Allen's a broken quarterback. So it's not me saying that the Bills are necessarily better. The Jets might actually still somehow squeak out a division spot over the Bills. But I just don't, if you've got the quarterback that you've got with the Jets.
So let's jump right into it. You give your overreaction Wednesday. So this is our next section.
I'll jump right into it.
So we might as well go into it because then we can actually talk more in depth about the game and actually talk about our extreme differences. So this is a new segment. We probably are going to continue on. We'll see how it goes. But this is Overreaction Wednesday. So with that, we're going to lay out what we believe is a right reaction. So it's not an overreaction. And we're going to lay out what we think is wrong, as in, you're overreacting. You're full of it. Yeah. So if you think this,
the yeses and nos of overreaction time.
So this is Russ's take on
this is everybody's saying it.
Everyone's saying it. And they're right.
Agree with it. The Jets season is over. It's done. You might win 4 or 5 games, and I don't know what their schedule looks like. I'm not a Jets fan. But maybe you beat the Bills again. Maybe you beat a couple of non-division teams. Maybe. The Jets are dead. I give them maybe 5 wins. And it's going to be a bad year. And there's more that I can point to than just Rodgers going down as to why I don't like the Jets. But there's a lot of bad shit. There's a lot of bad shit. Because losing Rodgers, I think the team, like I said, in the game, in the moment, everyone wants to go win that one for Aaron because it's tragic and whatever. We gotta get this one for him. But I think the Dalvin Cook signing was a waste of money because he looked like butt. But Breece Hall is a top 5 running back in the league, I think. It ends up kind of working out where Dalvin can spell him, but Dalvin's not what I think the Jets organization probably thought he was. Oh, what else did I write down here? Gosh. They can't throw the ball more than 3 yards. Like it's brutal. I don't know what the deal is because the first couple passes, Wilson slung it downfield and it actually looked okay. And then he went full Kirk Cousins and said, fuck that. I'm throwing it to my running back.
How about that can't even be true because the first week of the season we might have had the catch of the season.
Well, okay. Garrett Wilson might have the greatest hand-eye coordination in the league because he went from receiver to DB to receiver in the span of 2 seconds.
Correct. He went from receiver to knocking the ball down, saying, "Wait, I might catch it."
Squat this thing. Never mind, it's still here.
Yeah.
Got it. No, that was an incredible catch. I actually did write down catch of the year. It's week 1, so right now it's catch of the year.
Yeah.
But super, super impressive catch by him. I just don't know that combination of that O-line, the inept quarterback play that you've got. I mean, maybe. So if I'm the Jets, fuck it, I'm just going to get into it. This is the only way that they save their season. Call Tom Brady. Call Tom Brady. My crazy take from last week is the only way. Don't let him go to San Fran when Purdy blows his elbow out. Bring him in right now because that's the only option you've got to save that season. Zach Wilson's taking him nowhere. And on the trade market, I don't know who you would go after.
So,
you could probably go snag somebody like Tannehill. He might be a slight bump in quality, not much.
So I think what's about to happen is they're going to go get a backup. They're going to go get like a journeyman backup. They're going to well, they're already talking like Wentz, Foles, like those type of.
Oh fuck! I mean,
so they're talking like a journeyman backup to come in to back him up, so that if he is garbage, they end up, they end up having somebody. I do think the interesting part, and I think the thing that I would give them is, yes, they won. I think that defense, truthfully, is top 5, maybe borderline on top 3. Like, they played lights out. Now, is it hype? Is it first week? I get all that. It might be an overreaction.
I
said that before. So they did what I said they were going to do. Now, it doesn't mean it's still week 1. I understand that. But DJ Reed is probably one of the most underrated corners.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On that, like, I would actually argue DJ Reed played better than Sauce on Monday Monday.
Sauce, because there was a point in time during that game where Sauce was locking up Diggs.
Correct. Yes.
And they bumped him to Reed, and he was able to burn Reed a couple times. But Reed made a great play at the end of that game.
Correct.
To shut that down.
And he also was making there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. At the end of the game, it was throwing to Stephon Diggs, and whether good or bad, it was going there, which we'll talk about. Kirk Cousins should also be doing that with Justin Jefferson. Anyways,
because he's kind of a Zach Wilson-esque quarterback where you just play like shit for no apparent fucking reason.
But Andy Dalton's already
trade him to the Jets. Actually, if you want to save your season, I will trade you the Jets. Kirk Cousins, you can have him.
Andy Dalton's, I believe, already backing up on the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken.
I feel like he's somewhere. I don't know.
He is 100%. I want to say he's behind a rookie or sophomore QB. I guarantee it. So he's already locked in.
Carolina, that's right.
Carolina, yeah.
Yep, because they bumped Corral. He went to New England.
Yeah.
I do remember.
Anyways, so that being said, the other thing is the entire game plan was built for Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
So I'm not surprised by what was there. I think Zach Wilson can make okay throws.
He can. That's the biggest problem is that he can. And
what I am very interested in is, and I know he may not have had a good last year,
or a good first game.
Nathaniel Hackett is what I'm talking about. Is how does Nathaniel Hackett build an offense for Zach Wilson? So
he doesn't. He was a piece of shit in his last job. He's going to be a piece of shit in this job because the only success he's ever had is with Aaron Rodgers.
So let's see how that goes. So
it'll go fucking terrible. That's how it's going to go.
Here's
the thing.
Here's what I would say. What did
Wilson was terrible last year.
What?
Zach Wilson was not good last year.
Agreed.
And did they add anything other than Aaron Rodgers to that offense to make it significantly better?
So they were good when they had Brees.
When they had what?
Brees Hall. Brees Hall went down.
Hall was very good. Yeah, Brees Hall was good.
offense did good enough when they had Breece Hall, and then Breece Hall got injured, and then
13 points. I'm talking about right now. Last year, Breece Hall was very good. Breece Hall himself looked very good in week 1. I'm not saying he didn't look good. I just said he's a top 5 running back.
So let's see, where's
That's your whole game plan is Breece Hall?
I would say this. Their game plan is I think they're going to have a more in-depth game plan than the Falcons will. And I would take Breece Hall over Bijan.
I would take Breece Hall over Bijan right now as well, but I don't know that I would take the Jets coaching staff over Atlanta's coaching staff. I think they're both not good.
Who do you have winning the NFC South?
Atlanta.
Okay. I think the Jets
division is ass.
Correct. I think the Jets will have a better record than Atlanta.
I don't think so.
Which will be 8 to 10 wins.
I think the Jets win 5 or 6 max.
I think the Jets will absolutely.
I think they're ruined. So they're not going to win a game against Miami. None of those games. They might split with New England if they're lucky. And at this point, who knows what happens with the Bills?
Well, we're splitting. We're splitting.
Well, at worst, they're splitting. Right? They've got one of their 5 to 6.
So last year they beat the Browns by 1 point. They lost to the Bengals.
Why do you keep looking at last year? We're talking about this year. Last year means nothing.
Because of when Breece got hurt, that's when they went downhill.
Yeah, but if let's say Breece stays healthy the whole year, 6 wins. 6 wins. I mean, you can't build your whole offense on Breece Hall. Breece Hall is not Adrian Peterson in his prime.
I never said he was, but he certainly is a top 5
running
back. He certainly is a top 5 running back, and there's a lot of other teams that you would say you could build an offense around them.
Around a running back?
Yes.
I don't know about an entire offense. I mean, you can build your offensive majority of it, but I think Zach Wilson is so inept.
Are you, like, Tommy, you really are crazy. He's not a 30-carry guy?
I don't know that I would run him 30 carries right now just health-wise. I might be a little concerned about that. But talent-wise, like if he were to go 20 carries a game, no injuries for like 3 weeks, I'm cutting him fully loose at that point. Breece, and I actually wrote this down, so I'll counteract my own point.
Tommy says that he doesn't think Wilson is the number 1 receiver.
In what world? In what world? Yeah. I mean, is he the best receiver in the league? No.
No. I wouldn't even say.
Is he absolutely a number 1 receiver? Yes.
Is he in order to be a number 1 receiver, you have to be a top 20 to 30 receiver.
Right. Number 1 receivers get anywhere from 5 to 10 catches a game. Depending on the week, depending on the game plan, depending on everything around you.
He is that all day long, every day.
No position in all of football, really, because you can't do anything without a bunch of other players. So can Garrett Wilson 5 to 10 games beat a cornerback and get open? 100% he can. His footwork is great. His route running is good. His hands are better. Yes. Now, do they have a lot of other receivers that I have faith in? Not really. But they've got some okay receivers.
Yeah.
They're far from the worst receiving core in the league. Kansas City. But I did actually write down on the topic of Breece. I wrote down that Breece is better than Dalvin by a lot. He looked in that game like this generation's Barry Sanders or Shady McCoy. He had that style of running, and he was able to shake players in that manner of like regularly. In the backfield, at the line, he was wildly impressive. I just think if you lean on him, as Tommy's saying, 30 to 35 carries a game,
I mean, 35 is a little much. I don't know that there's
a lot.
35. I don't think there's a lot of running backs that even push that. Like Derrick Henry, maybe.
Look at sturdy, crazy, durable running back. Marshawn Lynch got for a while 30 carries a game, and it kind of ran him into the ground. Like late in the season, he wasn't running the same as he was early. Brees isn't. I don't think he's a small running back. He's not a big running back.
Yeah,
he's wildly athletic, but the injury last year, his running style, and everything included, I don't think that they're even planning on running him 25 times a game. I think that's why they brought Dalvin in to split workload. And Dalvin, I understand it's going to come off that I'm a hater because he was a former Viking, but I wasn't mad when the Vikings let him go, and I think we've talked about that. He visibly lost a step.
I also think that, and you may argue it just because you like to hold to your point, but I think you may have a different opinion if his contract wasn't what it was.
No, and that's the thing is Dalvin every single year gets some form of injury. He is not capable he doesn't have breakaway speed anymore. Even his breakaway runs last year, like against the Colts and things, he had to bounce off of 3 terrible tackles to get in an end zone. So
but you're telling me you wouldn't want him to come in and be the backup for Madison?
Backup? Sure, yeah.
But that's what he is. That's my point. Right now, he is the spell out back, not the lead back.
Well, but if he can't be better and like noticeably better than Alexander Madison, you have a problem.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying you'd be silly to not be a backup.
Sure.
To not want him as the backup, which I would say he is the spell back for Brees. So
what I'm saying, and I agree, he's the spell back, but I think they're going to use him too much. I think they're going to lean on him to spell Brees too much, which is going to hurt the offense because Brees is that guy.
Right. No, and I agree. I guess my point is if I say Brees is top 5, I also say Dalvin is one of like a top 10 backup in the league as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's
like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So when you look at that duo, like together, the duo together is arguably one of the best. And the only one I could think of was maybe Atlanta with Bijan and Tyler Algier.
Atlanta beats them just because Algier might be a better one.
Correct. That's my point. Is that he is way better than, and I'm not arguing that. My point being. Like they're right there because Brees, I believe, is better than Bijan. So, like it's one of those things. It's like where do you put him?
I think Bijan is wildly good though. I do.
Oh, he is. Oh, 100%. He was. Yeah. He lived up to everything, and he got way less carries, but he lived up to it. So
yeah. So I agree with you on not Bijan, but Paul being that dude. He's money. My favorite part of that game was when the Jets fan on live TV flipped the camera off or flipped somebody off and it was caught on camera. That was the freaking greatest. That was the greatest. Let me see if I had any other notes here. I actually wrote down Brady to the Jets and that Jordan Whitehead is probably the defensive player of the year. You know he had a $250,000 bonus in his contract for 3 picks on the season, and he already cashed it in.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Josh Allen, for $250,000 being just kind of tossed to me. The rest of my notes are actually about the Bills. So if you want to keep going,
so is he a rookie?
Whitehead? No, he's been in the league for a little while now.
Oh, defensive player of the year. Sorry,
player of the year. Yeah. 3 interceptions, not defensive rookie, no.
Yeah. Okay.
The rest of my notes are on the Bills, actually.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know my take. I think that I disagree with where you're at. I think they're going to be about a 500 plus team is where they're going to land.
Okay.
Is where I see them. It's a big hit. Like, I know you don't think it's that big of a hit, but ultimately we don't get to argue.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big hit because I didn't think that they were going to be as good as you thought they were going to be in the first place. But I do think that if they were able to bring in a quarterback that was wildly better than Wilson is, that's a game changer. And I still think Miami takes that division based on what I've seen out of Miami.
Right.
But could they be a playoff team? Could they be right there with Miami record-wise if they had a really good quarterback? Yeah. Yeah, because their defense is that good.
And the other thing I would say is their O-line is not good. Like, they are not good. But I also don't think it's like this whole thing of like they are trash.
Well, I think I mean, here's the thing is they're not good. That statement is 100% true.
Correct.
Their O-line's better than Minnesota's.
Their O-line's better than a few teams I saw this week. So
by a lot. Yeah. So, and that's the thing is part of that too comes down to the quarterback. Like when I say bring Tom Brady in, Tom Brady's a fucking statue. And if you put him behind a bad offensive line, in theory, he should get fucking killed. But he does have the ability to point out, okay, here's the mic, here's a blitz, here's this, prep them pre-snap, and then move in the pocket to avoid things. I think I keep wanting to say Josh Allen. Zach Wilson has happy feet like a motherfucker, which makes the line look even worse.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's part of the problem.
Anyways, we'll move on to the next overreaction Wednesday.
Well, you want to talk about the Bills at all, or you want to skip the Bills?
Yeah, we can go Bills. You can go Bills.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did early on in that game. I actually wrote that the Bills, when playing confident, are a monster, because there were a few drives where they looked confident and in sync, and they looked like the Bills from 2-3 years ago. So I think they still have that ability, but I don't know if it's coaching or what. But something is broken in that organization.
I think. Sorry to jump in there. I think Josh Allen might be the most reckless quarterback in the league, and may border.
He might be more reckless than Favre.
I was about to say the same. So I would say he might be as reckless or more than Favre, and at more inopportune times. Like it's the thing about Favre, I would argue, was just as reckless. The difference is he didn't do it with running over people too. Like, and Josh Allen.
Josh Allen's like fucking Simpsons moment where he just jumped through the window there.
Yeah.
Was insane. What are you thinking?
Why? And the thing about it was about to be tackled 10 yards short of the first down. Like what?
No matter what you do with that weird little hop, you're not getting 8 more yards.
That's not gonna happen. At best, you're maybe getting it within 6.
3.
You're like going from 9 yards to 6 yards away from the first down. Congratulations. You just about broke your neck.
Great job. Yeah, I mean, with the reckless thing, it's one of those things where Favre would throw the ball anywhere and make a mistake. I don't think I've ever seen Favre make the same bad throw 3 times in a row. Like those picks that he threw to Whitehead were the same pass 3 times.
Yeah.
Just roll out left.
So I would argue this. One of those picks I don't mind.
Sure.
Because it was 3rd and 15 or whatever it was. And he threw that.
It was a punt.
He threw that within the 10 yards from the end zone.
And they chose to catch it.
Give your guy a shot. Bad throw. What's the difference? We would have punted it anyways, so who cares?
Right. That's essentially a punt. But
that was the first one. That was the first one. If that was the second one, then it doesn't even look as bad because you threw a bad pick, you did the punt, and then you did the first one, and then you said, damn, Whitehead's pretty athletic. He actually went up and got that. And then you went and threw it straight to him and said, you know what? Let me prove that this guy's actually the best defensive player in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was bad. The reckless thing's crazy. Flip side, Matt Milano might be the most underrated linebacker in the league.
He was legit.
He was lights out. Like, for as bad as the Bills looked all game, that dude looked like a freaking stud.
Yeah. I mean, that Zach Wilson throw was a terrible throw, but yes.
Brutal. Yeah. Well, it was, but there were more plays outside of that.
Yeah, no. But yeah, it was the sack he got. It was all
the running plays that he stopped behind the line. Like that dude, I'm not saying he's Luke Kuechly, but he has that same like I'm just gonna get to where the fuck I'm supposed to be and make shit happen.
Yeah, I mean
Definitely
him beating him.
not Luke Kuechly status, but
Yeah, he beat
same
when he
type.
beat that tackle through the gap on the pole. Like I was
Oh
like,
my God.
what? Or the guard or whatever it was. It was like,
Yeah.
how the hell did you like react so quickly?
Just right there.
Yeah. So
For the Bills, and kind of the same thing I said about Miami. James Cook, man, is a freakish athlete, but he has no dog in him and no vision to speak of whatsoever. There were countless times where they run the ball with him, and if he just goes one gap to the left or cuts a certain way, he's getting 15 yards or way more. But he just runs into people like he doesn't want to. He's got like the original Batman's neck. You just can't move your neck unless your body goes with it. Zero vision whatsoever. That was terrible to watch.
he was running like he was running on the Madden arrow. Like I gotta follow where the arrow pushes me. Like
this is exactly where I have to go.
This is the hole I'm supposed to be going through, so I better go through it. So
fucking brutal to watch. And those were the biggest ones that I had there. And that was a lot. We talked about a lot with that game.
Okay, my overreaction that I agree with.
Yeah.
So it's not an overreaction. Is Browns
reaction?
Browns defense is top 5.
Okay. I don't agree with that yet because of kind of what we said when we talked about the game. Is that they played the Bengals. The Bengals are a great team.
Yeah.
Should be a great team.
Yeah.
But they did not play like a great team. And I'm going to pull some things where, same thing I said, both quarterbacks were throwing the ball into the ground. I don't think the blocking was real great that day. They looked good. Like Zadarius was getting through and Garrett was getting through and plays were being made. But I am not jumping on a top 5 statement after watching a quarterback throw the ball into the ground and nothing else happened.
So there's a couple things. One, I noticed it because he's also on my team. Is T. Higgins got targeted 8 times and had 0 catches, which is legit. Like, I mean, I don't think T. Higgins is going to go out and have a monster year monster game every game. But I mean, maybe that's Burrow just not getting it to him, or he's getting locked down. Like their number 2 getting locked down like that is wild.
I put the whole game on Burrow. I think it was the worst I've seen Burrow play since he's been in the NFL.
The other one is I am a massive fan of Jim Schwartz. And that might have been because he got me a Super Bowl, but I do believe that they needed a coach like him.
Sure.
To come in because they have talent. Like they might have, for the last couple of years, they've had probably one of the most underperforming defenses in the league.
Yeah, they've always had pieces. I mean, they've never been bad massive on paper. Pieces.
Yeah. But they just haven't been able to put it together. Like,
well, and simplistically, just looking at the pass rush that you have with Garrett, by himself, and then a corner like Denzel Ward, you should be good year by year because you're essentially taking away a top receiver a good chunk of the game, and you are in the quarterback's face on a regular occasion. Now, if Zadarius Smith stays healthy for the first time in his career, things might happen. But much like you saw with Minnesota last year.
Injuries are injuries, so there's only so much.
It's not even injuries, though. Like, he was injured in Green Bay.
Right.
But when he came to Minnesota, he wasn't injured. He just stopped fucking playing after the first half of the season. Right. And that's the concern with somebody like him is that he seems to only be there to collect the paycheck. He's going to get enough stats. That way he gets paid next year, and then he's done. Like, there's no real drive.
Right.
And he's taking up a spot. But Owosu Koromoa is a good player. There's a lot of stuff to like on that roster.
Yeah. I mean, so you got Greg Newsome, Juan Thornhill, Grant Delpit, Denzel Ward is their secondary. You got Anthony Walker, Jeremiah Owusu Kamara, Zadarius, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Myles Garrett Like, you've got some studs.
You've got a roster to work with.
Yeah. An absolute roster to work
If Bill Belichick was coaching him, I'd be with you.
And I mean, I'm not someone who, I don't think he's like, but I mean, they have Rodney McLeod as a backup who he's been in the league.
He's good.
He knows how to play safety, right? So
he's good. Well, and underrated pieces too. Like when you bring in somebody like Dalvin Tomlinson and he's an afterthought, that's a good move because he crushes the middle of that O-line.
So we'll see. I mean, I don't, we'll see how it turns out. I don't,
okay.
I believe that it's a fair reaction, and we'll see how it shakes loose. So.
I mean, I do have an honorable mention piece here. I'll throw in so that everybody can call me crazy. Brock Purdy's a top 10 quarterback. And I don't think that's crazy pressing the envelope, but I'm not a big let's anoint somebody a great quarterback early kind of guy. I mean, in our first show, I think I was talking about, I don't know that his elbow is going to make it past halfway through the season. And I was kind of shitting on him a little bit because I didn't know how he would hold up in 1 year, or not even 1 year, in a couple of games. He got hurt.
Yeah.
For him to come back in the last game of the year in the playoffs from a bad elbow injury and come back week 1 and light up the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And he was spot on. Like the touchdown throw to Ayuk, everything was pinpoint.
So I would say he's proven more by the last game. Yeah. I don't think I can put him in a top 10.
I don't know who I have beaten him out exactly.
I don't
have to look at it.
I don't know either. I guess I would just say, like, there's players who I would take. Now, I guess to be fair, when I say top 10, I'm not saying again.
You've got Kirk Cousins in your top 10.
Correct.
I think that is an absolute madness statement. Like when you said that to me off air, I almost got on Amazon to find a straitjacket to send you so we could get you the help you need.
So here's my point, and this is what I was going to get to, was I don't believe I would take Kirk Cousins with any length of contract. But if I had to go play one game right now, I'm taking Kirk Cousins over I'm taking Brock Purdy.
I'm taking Purdy. Way more dog, way more everything.
Yeah, no.
I don't think there's a single thing Kirk Cousins does better.
I think put it this way. I think if you put Kirk Cousins on that Niners defense, they're better. And I bet you San Fran would want Kirk Cousins right now. I know that because
happily make that trade. Please make that trade.
Because Kyle likes Kirk Cousins.
And I'm hoping, and this is the thing, is if we
that would be the move. If
we get our ass kicked tomorrow by Philly, like if we get, and I'm not saying we're supposed to win the game. We're not supposed to win this game. But if we get our ass kicked and like 30-point loss, I pray to God we trade away Kirk Cousins and tank the fuck out of this season.
Oh yeah.
Because if we lose to Tampa and are not competitive in any way, shape, or form, there's nothing to play for. Play for a draft pick. Kirk Cousins is not going to be the guy next year. Most of our team is young. Trade away all the vets. Start prepping for next year.
Oh, it's the move. It's the move. Brock Purdy, I was impressed. I'll admit.
Me too.
I'll admit when I say I did not. He needed to prove it. Truthfully, though, again, I'm not trying to downplay 250 yards, but 250 yards is also still 200. There's a lot of quarterbacks who've thrown for 250 yards in the NFL.
That's not a boat race. It's not a barn burner. I get it.
No, it's not what Tua did, right? We're
right. Where you're on pace for 7,000 yards in a season or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Tua's not going to repeat it, But in order to get to 4,500 to 5,000 yards, you have to throw a couple 350, almost 400-yard games. Like
you probably need a couple 500s or 450s.
Right. Well, either that or you need consistent three. Like you cannot what is 250? What are we 17 now? Which is different, obviously.
Well, yeah, you've got a full game added onto there.
But yeah, 250 yards, 17 games is 4,250. Like, just to put it in perspective, if we look at yards, I think that's approaching top 10 yardage in. Like, it's not even in. So he had a good game, but again,
he's in a good position. I agree that he's in a good spot because you've got a good O-line. You've got a great running back to fall back on. You've got good receiving threats.
Fantastic defense. And we all know that when your defense puts you in good position, it's a lot easier to be successful.
Minnesota proved that inaccurate this last week because our defense was actually pretty good. We held them to 3 yards per play.
Again, it is the Buccaneers. But...
Right. So Kirk Cousins, your boy Kirk Cousins couldn't get it done over the Buccaneers, holding them to 3 yards of play. He fucking stinks. Yeah. He might be bottom 10. I'm anointing him bottom 10. He stinks.
No, he's not.
He needs to go home and let his wife dress him again because he fucking stinks. Right,
Tommy, again, Tommy,
the wrong
like
side.
Just to be crystal clear again, they played the worst team in the league last year.
Worst team.
And he got 250 yards. What I'm saying is not 250 yards is top 10. What I'm actually saying is the opposite. 250 yards is not actually...
Well, and a good chunk of his 250 was not air yardage, but yak yardage.
Correct.
Yeah. Tommy, Jordan Love fucking stinks.
Sorry.
All right.
What are we jumping on to now?
Let's flip the script here. We have one each of the overreactions that we don't agree with. You want to go first? Or do you want me to jump in here first?
You go first. I'm trying to actually.
As we chatted a bit earlier talking about the Cowboys game, is that they blow the Giants out by 40 points, and now everybody's anointing the Cowboys a absolute playoff lock, a Super Bowl contender, one of the best teams in the league, and I could not disagree more. I don't think that the Cowboys are bad. I wouldn't put them in like the bad team category, but I think the Cowboys have a game or two like this every year. Last year, they did the same thing to the Vikings and back down to earth the following week. Vikings back up the following week. I think these games just happen. I think that these games especially happen in week one, and they absolutely showed up to play a divisional opponent and played well, but I think most of that game was handed to them. The Cowboys are not going to be a 13 or 14 win team this year. It's not going to happen. If they do make the playoffs, they will not go far in the playoffs. They probably are one and done. The Cowboys are, yes, Daniel, still them boys that never do fucking shit when it matters. The Cowboys are still the Cowboys. Yeehaw, Jerry Jones. You still fucking stink.
So, two things. I disagree.
Okay.
I think that Cowboys defense might arguably be competing between the Niners and the Jets as the top defense in the league.
Oh,
however,
the Eagles' defense is better than theirs.
However, we'll see. However, their offense is not that good.
Correct.
So I believe that the Cowboys will continue to be competitive until they run up against good defenses, is what's going to happen. And so I guess what I would say is they're going to continue to they'll get above 500. They're going to get between 10 to 13 wins. They might get closer to 13. I don't. It all depends. I have to go through their schedule. I don't know their schedule. Obviously,
I don't care what their schedule is because they'll. What's going to be crazy is that they'll split at best most of their divisional games.
Right.
That division is so insane, and as bad as the Giants looked, I've never seen the Giants just get mollywopped by them twice in a year.
No, they may not. They may. I don't know what's going on.
The Giants look like shit. They could. But I would be surprised if the Cowboys in division don't lose 3 games at least.
I think in division they're probably going 4-2 is the way where I put them at.
I would put them at 3-3 or maybe even 2-4.
No.
Because I think they lose both of them to Philly.
Probably, but they always play tough to Philly.
There's 2 right there.
Yeah.
I think they lose 1 to Washington. And I think there's a chance that the Giants shock them because of the way that they both walk into that game.
I don't know if they'll lose to the Commanders because of how good their defense is.
Commanders' defense very good too.
I think the Cowboys' defense is better, and their
I think we've got more talent.
The Cowboys' offense is definitely better than the Commanders right now.
Is it?
I mean, so here's okay. Then what I think is going to happen? So they get into that 10 to 13 wins. Then they're going to go and blow it in the playoffs, and likely Dak may be on his way out.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dak is one of those Kirk Cousins situations where it's not like Kirk Cousins when he's good is good, and when Kirk Cousins is bad, he's bad. And I think Dak is the same way where he's played honestly pre-injury at an MVP level at times. But he's never been the guy to carry the team. Like he's never just taken that team on his back and taken them to spots they've never been. And to your point, their defense is really fucking good. So it should be so much easier.
Right. Oh, it should be. Don't get me wrong. I think their people are thinking their offense is good, but like again, their defense put them in such good position.
Right.
They should have had more points, to be fair.
Realistically, I mean, I get they're probably just running the game out because it's a throwaway game at that point. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to go out and prove a point, like, yeah, nothing offensive during that game was compelling for me to go, oh yeah, they're Super Bowl contenders. No.
And I agree running the game out, but you run the game out like in the second half. In the first half, you put it away, and they had plenty of opportunities to do more.
Yeah.
So, okay.
What's your insano take that you don't agree with?
The Seahawks are trash. So I do believe, like I stated, I think the Rams are competitive in that division. I do think they should have done more. I think they've got some shit to figure out. But I do believe that they'll get it figured out. I think Geno isn't a one-hit wonder. We'll see. I don't know if I don't think he'll necessarily get to the level he did last year, but I certainly believe that they'll be able to figure it out. I don't know how the Seahawks started last year. I know they did fairly strong near the end. Yeah, again, it's week 1. Don't overreact. I believe the Seahawks will be competitive in that division. So
I agree. We both picked them as division winners. It is tough to look at the San Fran game and the Seattle game and go, oh, no, yes, Seattle's going to win that thing for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. Yeah. If Purdy does re-injure the elbow, if something goes wrong with San Fran, if, Seattle picks it up and plays at the level they were last year, anything can happen. The week 1 overboard reactions are a bit insane because I do think Seattle is a good team. On paper, they've got more pieces than they did last year. Coaching staff hasn't changed.
Right.
They should pick that thing right back up. And especially after, honestly, the emotional thing with DK and Pete, that could be a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Realistically, if you have the emotional blow up in week 1 and you go, dude, I could be better, you could be better, let's figure this shit out and move forward, that can almost be a catalyst to get better overnight.
Right.
So I think they'll pick it up. I agree with you. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. We're on the same page.
Okay. Yeah, so that's our Overreaction Wednesday. Let us know what you think. If you like the segment, if you think we're absolutely insane, yeah, let us.
Not you, Tommy. You don't count.
Yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll go further from there. So, and
Thursday.
Cowboys will not win the NFC East. I think they have a shot, but I don't.
No, they won't even. They won't be within 3 games.
Yeah, you probably got in a little bit after our Jags review. Was the Jags look like the Jags should, and the Colts actually were a little bit better, and I would argue that actually bodes very well for the Jags. I would say we didn't really go as in depth in that one. The Calvin Ridley looked legit. Zay Jones.
Calvin Ridley came out and scored immediately.
Yeah,
I mean, Calvin Ridley was
prior to Garrett Wilson. I thought Zay Jones might have had the catch of the year. So I don't know if you got to see that catch, but it was legit. Like that catch, I could not believe that catch. So
ETN played well and played well late. I do think that the golden boy, the luscious locks needs to be a little more consistent, maybe.
Yep.
Because I think he's a bit high and low.
Yeah.
But all in all, that team is very good. They should win that division pretty easily, I think, in the grand scheme of things. But I think the big takeaway for me from that game was that the Colts looked way better than I thought they would. Oh, fuck. Here we go.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, we're not going to have to ban you, are we? Who gives a fuck what stupid numbers Dak put up? The vast majority of his amazing numbers were pre-injury, and he's got one of the best rosters around him and has since he stepped into the league.
Correct.
This is the same situation a million players find themselves in. And as you're going to see with Dallas this year, their offensive line's not as good as it has been the last 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years. He's going to have pressure in his face. He's going to fucking crumble, which is part of the reason I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be as good as everyone thinks they will be. They played a shit team, or at least they played a team that played like the worst team in the league for week 1.
Correct.
And everything was handed to them, and they still dropped 40 with their defense putting up half of that. So
also,
Dak's not prolific.
And if I'm not mistaken, Dak had a whopping. Where was it?
Was it 140 yards or something?
Yeah, something like that. Like it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like
it was amazing.
He had 140 yards, 13 for 24.
Yeah. 13 for 24 against that awful team. Was amazing. Yeah, 57% completion. Yeah, he's a god. He's a god amongst men. That dude fucking stinks. Yeah. He's Kirk Cousins with a little bit more acceleration.
Yeah. Anyways.
Not good.
All right. Next
game.
segment. Thursday night. Tomorrow night's game. Let's talk some Eagles-Vikings.
So I could not be more bummed about this game for a multitude of reasons. The first reason being that I won't actually even be able to watch it live because I will be stuck at a fucking work meeting with my boss's boss who decided, I'm going to be in town Thursday. Please come out to dinner with me. So I got to sit there in this business meeting wondering what's happening with the game. And then I have to come back home and watch it not live, which is going to be brutal if I get an update on my phone that goes, the Eagles win 78-0. It's going to be disgusting for me to have to go back and rewatch that thing. But all of that nightmare life that I have to live aside, I could not hate this matchup more for the way these two teams are built, because obviously I am the Vikings fan. The shithead over here is an Eagles fan, and he's smiling. I'm not happy. Our offensive line is probably the worst in the league right now due to center and two guards being worse than not serviceable. We have the worst interior offensive line in the league, and I think the Eagles have the best interior defensive line in the league. So that's going to be awful because we couldn't run the ball against Tampa, which means we're damn sure not running the ball against Philly. And
so the one area I would say for Tampa though is Vita Vea is literally almost impossible to move. So
sure,
and I'm not saying that
you compare Vita Vea to Jordan Davis.
Yeah, no, and that's a fair comparison for sure. So yeah, that's fair. So interesting one when you bring up that. So Next Gen Stats released fastest get off times. Just because I like to make you feel even worse.
I love this. This is making
fastest
me really
get
happy
off times last week.
Okay.
Number one, who do you think it was?
Jalen Carter.
No. Myles Garrett.
Oh, are we not talking about? I thought you were throwing me an Eagle fresh from the get.
No. So Myles Garrett.
Okay.
So fair, right?
I thought you built this thing up like some.
No, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Was getting off quicker than a high
so
school boy on
0.58 seconds. 0.58 seconds. Myles Garrett.
Okay.
Number 2, Josh Sweat. 0.59. Number 3, Jalen Carter. 0.68. Number 4, Hassan Reddick. 0.70. Number 5, Nick Bosa. 0.70. Yannick Ngakoue. 7.72. Number 6, Fletcher Cox, 0.72. And number 8, Milton Williams, 0.72. We have 3 defensive tackles as the fastest get off the line.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah. And honestly, the sweat one being in there or not, that wasn't yours. That was the other.
No, Josh. No, that's ours. That's ours.
Oh, that's okay.
That's
an equal problem because we have a dinged up left tackle and a right tackle coming off an injury, and nothing about any of that makes me feel good at all. I feel like Kirk Cousins statistically is going to throw for 72 yards. He'll go 5 for 29.
Right.
And our running game is going to amount to 43 yards.
Here's where I would agree. And not to continue to pile on, but the other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing was I think we got like 2.5 sacks or 3. It was in that 2.5 to 3, which, to be honest, was fairly low considering what. Like if you look at this, Mac Jones's snap to throw time was averaging 2.5 seconds.
Yeah,
it was basically half step back throws, not even it was.
And Mac Jones also does not have a bad O line.
No,
that O line is leaps and bounds better than what Minnesota's working with, and that sucks. And I hate this. That's the biggest part about this game that I don't like, and that's going to ruin the whole game because our entire offense is going to struggle based on the fact that the O line's probably not even going to be able to stand in front of you guys long enough for Kirk to take a step.
Right.
Madison ran into a brick wall last week. So whether or not I think Jefferson can torch a DB or not, it's not even going to matter because there won't be time to get the ball out there.
Yeah. And so some of the Eagles fans are overreacting. Sean Desai, is he any good? He didn't blitz at all. He didn't do it ever. And then you look at stats like this, and it's like, wow.
He didn't have to.
Well, not only that, it didn't matter even if you did.
Right.
If you got players that are getting off as quick as Myles Garrett is getting off, it's the issue isn't that you need to send more people because it doesn't matter. Mac Jones is just throwing it so fast that he's throwing it before the pressure can get there, right? It doesn't. I mean, 2.5 seconds.
The game plan was adjusted perfectly for that type of situation.
Correct.
Well, and that's what we're going to have to do. Is so I did through all of the nightmare of watching the shitty Vikings game and a couple highlights from the Philly game, a couple notes I did jot down for me to maintain any semblance of hope going into this game. More so for it to just be slightly competitive. I'm fully in the know that this is probably a loss. Can miracles happen? Sure. But more than anything, I need to see this be competitive in some way, shape, or form. Good moments, adjustments. More than anything, I need to see the coach make some fucking adjustments because he made none last week, and that was disgusting.
Yeah.
So the one thing, first and foremost, that I am enjoying about this going into this game is that A, it's quick turnaround, thank God, and B, it's a complete script flipped of last year. We came off of a big win. You guys were coming down from a loss. We were way too high. You guys were pissed off. And I am hoping.
We won.
Did you? But it was.
We almost lost to the Lions, which were not a team that year. Like,
right.
It was.
You guys were all fired up coming into this game.
Yeah, I think we ended up winning like 48-45 or something. Like it was barely.
We were coming off of a big win where we're like, oh, we're the shit, no problem. And I think the big thing is we're coming off of a loss that should not have been a loss. And I'm hoping to God that we are now fired up the way that you guys were going into last year's game, because that's I gotta hold on to hope that we're coming in hot, and we're gonna make something happen. Strategically, we have to utilize Hawkinson like a motherfucker this game. It's not gonna be the Justin Jefferson show. I don't think it's going to be the Addison show because it's going to take too much time to get those guys in as spaces they need to be. Your guys' corners are actually pretty good. Your D-line is obviously incredible. Your biggest question mark is your linebackers, and Hawkinson is one of the better tight ends in the league. So if we don't utilize him a lot and early, it's going to be ugly.
So I agree. The one thing I would say is twofold. One, Bradbury's out. He's in concussion protocol.
Okay.
Not. I actually don't think
that's
that's
up on Addison, so that's not
right. I don't actually think that's that big of a deal because as long as Slay travels with Jefferson, and he doesn't always like they pick and choose how they do that. So if he travels, I'm good. And if they were going to pick any week to do it, they better do it.
That might be a good thing. This could be the revenge game. Because Slay dogged him last year.
And I think Jefferson can make Slay look foolish. I actually do. Like, Slay, there's times where he bites on stuff that he shouldn't bite on. But
that D-line is going to
no, and that's the thing. So that's number one. Number two, so we're going to have a Josh Jobe is going to be our second, which he's played decent. He's done okay. He'll play all right if he's matched up on Addison. If he's matched up with Jefferson, like Kirk should literally just take one step and throw it as high as he can.
just lob it to wherever he's supposed to be.
Just don't even look. Just what side is Jefferson on and throw it. Number two is Blankenship's out. So I would argue I have a question on the other safety because we got Justin Evans or Terrell Edmonds. It was Justin Evans last week. He played all right in coverage. He was kind of okay. That being said,
Edmonds, if you bring him in, he's more that banger. He's more that like big nickel kind
of.
Well,
my hope is that because Kirk takes some shots when he shouldn't, is that they actually bring in Sidney Brown, because Sidney Brown.
Freakish athlete.
He's a freakish athlete, and he goes for stuff he has no business going for, and will get it.
So when Kirk just lobs it out there,
when he just lobs it up, he'll just go get it, and that'll be great, right? So,
great.
But they might end up going with Terrell Edmonds, and then it's like now we're talking about and Nakobe Dean's now on IR. So we're talking about the question at linebacker, the backup corner, and a question at safety now. The only safety we were secure in is now out. So,
yeah, but again, when we're playing an injury game, we're missing our not the best center. Our left tackle's probably missing the game.
Correct.
If he doesn't miss the game, it's a dumb move. There's no reason to try to push through injury for this game. Our left tackle that replaces him can't play left tackle, literally. He's the worst left tackle in all of football.
Right.
And our right guard forces more fumbles on Kirk Cousins than most defenses do. It is the worst offensive line I may have ever seen in football.
Yeah.
I hate it. It makes me mad just thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't know what to say there. It shouldn't.
Well, and to play on that, I think this is a game or a tale of two different GMs. Your GM has come to the plate, filled needs as they've come available with Slay and other moves that he's made. He's been very aggressive in filling gaps to make things serviceable at worst. Like your injury situation is still held together pretty well with what you have behind him. Yeah. Whereas my GM is unwilling to even address our offensive line. Like, even if we were fully healthy going into this game, it's a fucking terrible matchup.
Right.
Because he has not addressed it whatsoever. And this will play into moves that we need to make. I'm going to bring it up now.
Yeah.
Because the only way we could have made this game competitive would have been for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah to have made any combination of these moves within the last 2 months. You could have signed and still could sign Lyle Collins, Dalton Reisner, Andrew Norwell, or Roger Saffold to fill the inept guard play on both left and right. There were 4 options there that could fill in at guard that would be 4 times better than any guard we have on the roster. It doesn't fix the center issue, but his dumbass overpaid our shitty center, and now he's already hurt. I can't fix that one. There's no good centers on the market.
No.
But even going into our defensive interior issue, which is still an issue because he didn't address it whatsoever. Akeem Hicks and Linval Joseph are both still on the market. They're great run stuffers, great centerpieces. No addressing it whatsoever. Whereas your guy sees a hole and fills a hole, and I fucking hate it, and it's the worst.
Yeah, so I don't have anything that I see that I'd want him to make. My biggest concern is that we are very shy at safety and linebacker, and I understand it's an organizational decision to not fill it, but
well, and
if we have
last year,
one more injury, we are screwed. Because here's the thing. I think the Eagles could lose. I don't think it's likely. But they could lose to the Vikings. It's unlikely.
We've seen weirder things play out.
I'm not as concerned about this week. My concern is we have 4 weeks, and now Nakobe Dean's now out for a month. Mm-hmm. And whether you think that Nakobe Dean's the next thing that saved our linebacking core, fair enough. But we're going to go in. So he's probably, I'm assuming it's 4 weeks because they put him on IR on Monday or Tuesday. So that means he is missing he's going to be coming back for... So we're going to play the Vikings, then we're going to play the Bucks, the Commanders, and the Rams. I think we'll be able to figure it out. Not saying we're going to win all of them, but we'll be able to... Out of the next 5 games, I think, or 4 games, I think we'll be able to win 3 of them. We might get one.
Well, your roster, and more importantly, your coaching staff should be able to overcome that.
Correct. Then we go into the Jets, the Dolphins, the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Chiefs. And basically, Nakobe Dean's going to be starting off as if he's a fresh rookie because he played half a game. And that's my
the Jets will be an easy game.
Huh?
The Jets will be an easy game.
Yeah.
Oh, Nakobe Dean plays defense.
Sure.
That Jets offense will be anemic.
Sure. Anyways, we just need to figure out our backers and our safeties. And other than that, I think we're good. Yeah. And maybe that's as simple as maybe Ringo goes back and plays safety, or they figure out some other way to
well, and I think, even like Sydney, like you were talking about, is just so hyper athletic that if you can get him to take some of the basics of safety for coverage purposes, and I'm sure at that point you're rotating safeties, right? If you've got two or maybe one or two guys that actually play safety, but you need somebody who's better with coverage. You do a personnel change and just
or you play some heavy nickel where you put Terrell Edmonds down in the box and he's now our linebacker
to somebody else,
and then you have Sidney and Justin Evans in the back, right? So or something along those lines. So
I think here's the big thing is, and it's actually ironically next on my notes, is that I think your coaching staff is capable of making adjustments and decisions to do things like that. Whereas if week one is any indication, Kevin O'Connell has no fucking clue what he's doing.
Right.
And I hope it was just, again, a week one anomaly, because he looked really, like, as a coach, he was really good last year. But for whatever reason, the offense was timid. They didn't adjust that. Like, the other team apparently figured out our signals, and you can't see that they're adjusting every single time you make a call. There was no acknowledgement, no recognition, no adjustments, a poor game plan, in my opinion. I hope to God Kevin O'Connell went to bed that night and thought, never a fucking again am I going to coach that poorly, because that was awful. As much as I hate your guys' coach, the dude knows what he's doing.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of arguments that they didn't adjust very well and so forth. But ultimately, my take on the whole thing is I want to see how this next week goes, purely because when you play Belichick, you should look uncomfortable. You should look uncomfortable. Like,
adjusting to Belichick is trying to adjust to his already adjusted adjustments. Like, correct. It's not Belichick.
You're always going to be a step behind. He just thinks he's that good that he can do it with a shitty roster and you have no chance, right? So,
I would say he's a poor GM and a phenomenal coach, and unfortunately, he's a lot of GM right now as well.
Correct.
One thing that I do actually have hope in is that our defense actually is substantially better this year already than it was last year. I know I'd mentioned that they held the Bucks to 3 yards or slightly less than 3 yards per snap,
right,
on average. I think our secondary looked way better already than it did all of last year.
Right.
Our linebacking core, I don't think it's amazing, but Ivan Pace, being an undrafted rookie, nobody had any thoughts as to what he was going to be. He's already starting. He's already one of those guys. And if you watch the game at all, if you go back and watch any of the defensive film from Tampa Bay, he was the one guy that was actually flying around the field and making plays regularly. He was tied for first in tackles. He was right at every play that was pivotal. So he's the one guy that I looked at that nobody thought was going to be anything. And I'm like, that dude's a fucking gangster.
Right.
But bigger than that is Brian Flores. Makes adjustments. He has uncomfortable packages that people are in. You've got 7 people on the line of scrimmage and nobody blitzes, and then vice versa. And he moves people around frequently. So I'm hoping that not playing the Donna Shell defense this year and going with the Brian Flores constant motion, weird change-up shit will cause enough problems that maybe our defense can keep us somewhat in the game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he comes from the Belichick kind of tree, right? So I'm hoping it's we had a good learning week, and we'll go out there and see how it goes. But the one thing I would say that I think that you guys are gonna put us in some uncomfortable positions. However, Hurts's decision making, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside, Goddard in the middle.
That's the next note I've got. That's the next note I've got.
The Swift and if we cannot absolutely torch the secondary, we have trouble.
It's literally the piece that I wrote down next is that you guys do have AJ Brown and Smith, and if they're actually matched up, man or we're pressed up or anything like that, those two are going to go crazy because that's 2 number ones. Like that's and we really don't have a corner that can match up with either one of them. It's all going to have to be scheme and what B-Flow does with the game plan and things that he does with the players.
Right.
Hopefully a lot of disguising and things, because if we start matching up man to man, we are fucked. It's not going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes because I do think that we could not get a deep pass for the life of us, and that was Belichick was making sure of that. But then he knew what our underneath passes were going to be, so it was like take away the deep, but like take him off his first short read as well, and it was like
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes loose. But other than that, I think it's I think it's still gonna feel a little bit like a rebound game, and that's the one positive I feel like coming out of it is Eagles
I
have
hope you
something
guys
to prove.
overlook us. I hope you guys overlook us like crazy. And we
I do
come in
not
hot.
think they're. I do not think they're going to. I really
I don't think they will either, but I'm hoping and praying.
because the
realistically, I
other
don't know.
thing, the other advantage that I have, I actually think that how difficult it was to play last week, and the fact that this is a Thursday game, therefore we have a mini bye after,
Yeah.
makes us not be as worried about the next week. And I would actually argue that's probably why we also somewhat looked as stagnant as we did, because you almost have to game plan for both games
Prepping for Thursday.
just because you don't have the time to coming out of the Sunday. So, which is probably for both of us, to be honest. Like if you look at but honestly, I think you would understand that too.
We probably overlooked Tampa Bay, and we're looking at this game.
Right. And I would say you like whether you overlook it because you think they're not going to be good, you have no choice but to be ready because you only have 3 days to get ready.
Right.
Right? Like you kind of have to play for both, right? So
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, we'll see. So
Anything you want to point out about your side of this? Because that's really, I hoped that week 1 for the Vikings would be way better. So I had a lot of positives to kind of point out and argue with you about. But based
yeah,
on
so
week 1,
I mean,
don't have.
the big thing is I'm excited that Gainwell's injured, not because I think Gainwell's actually a positive for our team, but we get to see what Swift, and I assume they're going to not have a healthy scratch on Penny this week, so they'll probably have Penny, Scott, and Swift.
And Swift, when healthy, is a great back.
Correct.
It's just the
so
when
I want to
healthy
see I want to see what they do with Swift and Penny with Gainwell out. I think Goddard's they're gonna force feed Goddard, which is a positive against you guys. I think that's.
I hope they do. Because I actually like our linebacker.
I think we'll be fine against. I mean, sure, Ivan Pace may be able to keep up with Goddard, but we'll see. 5'10" against his 6'4" frame. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's going to be the problem. Pace is small. Pace is small. He's just a freak athlete.
Yeah, and then I mean, obviously, I think Goddard can run circles around Jordan Hicks, but we'll see.
Literal ones.
Yeah,
probably literal ones. He'd run the circle around him route, and he would get there in time.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes, and then obviously, I think, truthfully, Hurts felt embarrassed coming out of that game, and that's his personality. I could not be happier to see him have a rebound game. So my only fear is the defense is we're missing a couple pieces and we're going against the top wide receiver in the league. So let's see how that goes.
See if he's got time to get open. So do you have a score in mind for this one? Because I actually have a score picked out.
I haven't put a lot of extra time in it. I think it used to be
I have
a
no
7.
idea what the spread is.
I think it was a 7-point spread, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if it still is. It was. But I would say they cover the spread. I actually think it'll be Minnesota will score some points. Let's go with, what do we got? Let's go with 35-25.
You are more confident in Minnesota than I am because I have this game going 31-17.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you guys will get ahead big, and it'll be 28 or something to 7 or 10. And you guys will go a little more lax on defense. The clock will run. You probably let us in the end zone once, and just time runs, and we score a few things pretty cheap at the end. So I think 31-17 where it ends up in my mind. Obviously, they clear the spread on that one. I just think roster-wise, the matchup is way in your guys' favor. And Minnesota's not going to overcome that. I'm holding out hope that I'm wrong. Obviously, I hope they win. But nothing I saw last week and nothing I've seen from the Eagles in the last year indicates that we're going to be running that score up on you guys.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how it shakes loose.
Man,
so
I'm just hoping we're worse than the Cardinals at this point, and we can get Caleb Williams.
There you go. So yeah. Anyways, I appreciate everyone who tuned in. Yeah, we're gonna be probably going live Friday unless something drastic pops up, but we should be live Friday. Go over our picks for Sunday. Talk a little bit about the game, and hopefully we can see a little tear or two from Russ after the loss.
This will be tomorrow night as I'm not watching the game. I'm going to start crying in my work meeting, and the guy's going to be like, "What the hell's wrong with you? You wouldn't understand." And I'm going to have to explain to him.
Other than that, if you guys can share the stream out, we got a couple shares. I'll rip through a couple. We've been chatting, so haven't really called out the likes. We got Doug, Alicia, Sheila, Proctor, Wilsley, Nathan Hawks, Alicia again. Shared it. Sorry, Alicia shared it. Brian Yeldon liked. Daniel Jensen liked and share. Tommy Kidnell with a like, and Cameron Adams. So appreciate everyone who liked, shared.
Guys, and that would be my biggest ask as well, is that not only just share during the stream, but we appreciate everybody who comes in and especially contributes to the conversation.
Absolutely.
While I know we don't call out necessarily every comment, we're trying to run this more as a traditional podcast and not like a gaming stream where we're just constant, back and forth. We do want to build some back and forth into this eventually as we get to a point where we can monetize and kind of get different pop-ups and alerts and things like that to become active.
Absolutely.
But the biggest thing that's going to help us get to that point is you guys sharing this thing out, inviting friends to like the page or follow the page, and just getting more people involved, because if the stream doesn't get out there a little bit more, then we can't get more people in here. And my favorite part about this, obviously, is arguing with this dummy here. But my second favorite part is arguing with you guys or agreeing with you guys. Never know, depending on the conversation. So the more people we get in here, the better. I think it's going to add to it and allow you guys also to get different interaction in the chat that, you guys can kind of go back and forth on some stuff while we're doing our thing as well, which is going to make it more fun for everybody. So please share, please invite people, get the word out there so we can grow this thing a little bit quicker and make it more fun for everybody.
Yeah, and just to exactly hammer on that is we actually really enjoy when you guys are going back and forth when Brian's calling out Tommy and Tommy's saying a statement that has nothing to do with the question that Brian asked. So
he goes cross body on him.
Exactly. Yeah. You betcha. So ultimately, really enjoyable. I know Russ said it last time, and I would say the same, is this has been one of the more enjoyable things I've done on streaming. The back and forth, the engagement, the number of comments and so forth. So keep it up. And we're fun, hoping to grow it. So, but
I honestly looked at this pre startup time today, and I was like, man, I don't think we have 2 hours worth of content here. And I think we've gone
2.5 hours.
Like 2.5.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that the conversation, obviously with us, but with you guys as well, just keeps this thing rolling. And even when I think we've got an hour's worth of content, we push that thing to 2.5. So it's been fun. Yep.
So anyways, jump in any of our posts. Obviously, we got some other posts that are rolling out throughout the week as well. You can go back and trash us on any of the picks that we did from last week. They should be up there. And I'll try and throw up some more for this week. We'll get some in the weekend there, so you guys can call it out, and don't be afraid as well to throw your picks in the chats or in the comments as well. So with that, appreciate everything. And we'll see you in a couple days.
Thank you.
Later.
See you next time.